It's time for Twig This Week in Google. Wow, what a great show we have for you. Ant's not here, so we've got Mike Elgin dialing in from Italy, Jeff Jarvis all the way from New Jersey, and our special guest sitting in for Stacey Higginbotham, Chris Messina, the inventor of the hashtag and discoverer of so many amazing technologies. We will talk about AI, of course, the Build conference and what Microsoft announced, but AI in general, including Bard, and a whole lot more. And while we're doing the show, we're going to listen in on Ron DeSantis' Twitter space where he announces his candidacy. The result may surprise you. It's all coming up next on Twig.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twig.
This is Twig. This Week in Google, episode 717, recorded Wednesday, May 24th, 2023. A book-shaped object. This Week in Google is brought to you by AG1 by Athletic Greens. If you're looking for a simpler and cost-effective supplement routine, AG1 is giving away a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase of a subscription. Go to athleticgreens.com/twig. And by ZipRecruiter. Whether you're starting a new business or growing one, if you want to be successful, you need the most talented people on your team. That's where ZipRecruiter comes in. And right now, you could try it for free at ziprecruiter.com/twig. And by Fastmail. Reclaim your privacy, boost productivity, and make email yours with Fastmail. Try it now, free for 30 days at fastmail.com/twit. It's time for Twig This Week in Google, and we have a couple of substitutions to announce at the beginning because we have brought in the understudies. Mike Elgin is here, filling in for Ant Pruitt, taking a couple of much-needed days off. Hello, Mike.
Hello, Leo. Thank you for having me. This is really exciting.
From Italy today. It's always
I'm
in the world.
Vittoria Veneto, Italy.
Yes. Mike and Amira in the Veneto. Are you getting ready for your Prosecco gastronomia tour?
That starts Tuesday. The Venice Prosecco experience starts Tuesday, and that's going to be in this general area, the Prosecco Hills and Venice and stuff like that.
I was telling you, my whole life, when people asked, I said, "Oh yeah, I'm Genovese," because I thought my grandmother was from Genoa. So, you know, my Italian roots, I'm a Genovese. And then my sister, the other day, I said we were in Genoa. And I remember that's where the family villa was. She said, "You're not Genovese." She said, my grandmother's stepfather was Genovese, Jacobi. But she said, Grandma was born, actually, Nonna, we call her, was born in Schio in the Veneto, very near where you are.
Yes,
so I'm all this time. I'm Venetian, and I didn't know.
That's right. You're Venetian. You're a child of the Venetian Empire, which is not bad.
Yeah,
and your grandmother has curtains just like those behind Mike.
I love those.
These might be your grandma's curtains.
They could be my grandma's curtains. They could be. That's Jeff Jarvis, the director of the Townite Center for Entrepreneurial Journalism at the Craig. Go ahead, singers. Jump your cue. Craig Newmark Graduate School of Journalism at the City University of New York. Hi, Jeff. His new book,
The Real One Arrived.
Yeah, Lisa said, "Oh, his book is here. It's the hardcover. That's not the galleys. That's the real deal."
No, that's the real thing. Yep.
Gutenberg.com. No?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, I think so.
You're still pre-ordering, though, because it's not officially out till June.
Pre-ordered out till June 29 in the U.S.
The ink is still wet on that one. Stacey Higginbotham also has a day off, so I thought this would be a great opportunity to get an internet legend and man about town on the show. Chris Messina is here. Hi, Chris.
Hey, good to see you.
We've known Chris forever. Chris, one of his many claims to fame, you were a big Twitter user. You actually left Twitter in a blaze of glory about a month ago.
That's right.
But before that, best known because you introduced the hashtag, which has really gotten a life of its own. But you started using it, or you suggested using it, I guess, on Twitter as kind of a canned search.
Yeah. I mean, back in 2007, Twitter was a simpler place. But yeah, we needed a place to share about what was going on. And most importantly, a way to filter things out that weren't relevant. And so the hashtag actually was meant to have both purposes. One was for adding labels, essentially metadata to posts so people could follow and track those topics. And then also my proposal, which was just a blog post, the idea was that you could mute things that you were not interested in. Because the problem actually that we were solving for, that I was trying to solve for, was in March of that year, a bunch of us had gone down to South by Southwest, and those who were not at South by Southwest were really annoyed by all of the tweets that were coming out about South by Southwest with our drunken antics and the rest. And so
it was,
we needed a way
I remember this.
It was exclude stuff.
It was so annoying. I do remember that. And the hashtag was, we kind of encouraged, if you're going to tweet about South by, just hashtag SXSW, so that
we could ignore it.
We could ignore it. There was no functionality built into Twitter to do this, of course. But Twitter at the time had something called track. So you could track a hashtag.
That's right. So, and in fact, that was one of the core drivers of the format. Because back then, if you wanted to, see what was going on with different topics, then and when you followed someone, that also meant that everything that they tweeted would get sent to your phone as a text message. This is before there was push notifications. This is before the iPhone, really. And so with hashtags, you could string together a series of words and then track that series of words, because it was, to Twitter, it just looked like a big blob of characters. And so that was actually one of the first use cases. In October of that year, my friend Nate Ritter was down in San Diego and was tweeting about the wildfires that were going on, and was using San space Diego space fire : as a prefix to all of his tweets. But you couldn't track that. You couldn't get updates on that specific topic. And I was like, hey, Nate, this would be a great use case for using hashtags. And so he used hashtag San Diego Fire, and people could subscribe to that. And then they saw him doing it, and then they started to do it, even though I didn't know why he was doing it. And that's basically one of the first kind of examples of citizen journalism using hashtags.
Yay. Here, a huge argument for preserving old tweets, because this is the tweet in August of 2007. How do you feel about using pound for groups, as in hashtag Barcamp message?
Oh, those are the days. Barcamp.
What's interesting is that a lot of the functionality of Twitter was, in fact, created like this by its users, who said, we need an @, we need a hashtag.
Who gets credit for the @? Does anybody?
I think that was RSG, if I recall correctly. I mean, even the retweet was a user convention. I mean, it used to be, if you recall, like it was RT and then @username and then the content, and it was just a copy paste job. I mean, it was so simple.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was one of the secrets, just for somebody who wants to build the next Twitter. One of the secrets of Twitter was it was kind of formless, which allowed its users to have emergent properties. And that was what made it so incredible. Sad to say, if you follow the, Chris Messina tweets, his last one is goodbye.
Yep.
So you left. In fact, you wrote an article about it. You finally, by the way, Elon Musk's tweet from March of this year. I hate hashtags. Of course you do, Elon. Of course you do. Of course you do.
It's all good things.
Of course. Hashtag goodbye, says Chris Messina. That's so. Why? What was the final straw? I don't need to ask why. What was the final straw?
It's such a strange thing, and I feel like I'm living in this or I had been living in this weird world of gaslighting on Twitter, essentially, where it was hard to know what was intentionally being done to degrade the service versus what was accidental versus what was just sort of circumstance. And my intention all along had been to give Elon his 6 months, to sort of see where he was going to take the platform. I am a Tesla owner, and so I have appreciation for his products and for the things he's done. And in this case, I've been. The funny thing is, I was on Twitter since 2006, so that means that the longest relationship in my life, beyond my marriage, beyond my current romantic partnership, or anything like that, was with Twitter.
Wow.
Okay, which is, I know, a very terrible and sad thing to say, but even still, to have come up on the platform as the 1,186th user and to see it grow as it did, meant that I wanted to see, maybe there's some things that can be done here that only an Elon Musk character could pull off. And, after 4 or 5 months, especially with so much focus and emphasis on blue checks and verification and eroding a lot of the trust on the platform, it just seemed to me, that the time had come for me to really look at and consider this relationship. And so what had happened was there was a person who is a sort of Twitter/Elon stan who retweeted this 14-year-old app researcher Neema's tweet, didn't provide what I considered to be adequate credit. Essentially, this person sort of takes other people's content, just like Elon does with memes, and then sort of gets the credit and all the likes and all the adoration. And I was just like, to do this to a 14-year-old kid, who is so positive in the world. He lives in Iran, like of all places, to take his work and then to share it as though it's your own and to sort of leave it ambiguous in terms of where it came from was sort of a strike too far for me. So I called this behavior out, of course, on Twitter, and I was like, what the hell? This is ridiculous. This is stupid. And then got into this back and forth with that person in DMs. And, I was like, whatever, like, I don't care. I'm leaving my tweet up, and within an hour or two, Neeva actually sent me a message and he's like, where did your blue check go? And I was like, what are you talking about?
Oh my God.
So I went to my account and it was gone. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. This was like days before like blue check again, like when they were all going to go away for everybody. And I was just, assuming and accepting, like, I'm not going to pay for Twitter Blue. I'm going to lose my check. It's fine. But to then lose my check, like days beforehand, it just like smacked of such
It was
smallness.
retribution. It was.
Yeah. So I'm like, you know what? Like, I don't need to stay here. I don't need to be providing my content and the things that I do out in the world. Like, we've had a relationship for a long time and now it's become abusive and I just need to leave. And so that's what happened. That's how I left.
And how does it feel after you set Shiva for a while?
It's hard. Like Twitter is in our culture. Like Twitter is, a circulation system or circulatory system, I suppose, for the tech world. And so many conversations go on there that normally I would participate in. So I'm still, I wouldn't say that I'm like going through like any kind of withdrawal or anything like that. I have other platforms and I have other places where I can share, but it does feel like leaving, the town or city where you've spent, again, I did literally spend years kind of growing up. But it's like, it's becoming something new and different. And I don't need to stick around for that transition process.
Do you read it at all still?
I do. I mean, I get lots of threads sent to me. I'm deep in kind of like the AI world right now. And so there's the AI community really is there. They haven't really found another place. And so I find myself going through, but I have decided that I will just not post publicly. I still use DMs. A lot of people, use that as a primary way to get in touch with me. And so that's
what you doing in AI, Chris?
Mostly right now learning, I would say. I've done a few angel investments here and there, but I think it's like I've been on Product Hunt for a long time, also since around 2014. And last December, I happened to catch ChatGPT as it was being announced, and I posted it to Product Hunt. And
God, you are the Zelig of everything.
Zelig. He is. Product Hunt, we should mention, if you don't know about it, it's worth checking out, is a place where founders go to announce their new products. And then there are people like Chris amplify that. And it's a really great place to see what's hot because of people like you.
Totally.
You like to contribute your content to other people.
I like being useful. I like being helpful.
Yeah.
And so, for a long time, so in my career is very strange because I've done many things. I'm sort of a generalist, a maximalist.
What did you start? You started as a designer, right?
That's right. I did.
Yeah.
So I came to Silicon Valley in 2004 and I worked on the launch of Firefox. And that was my first kind of foray into the tech world was through open source, and as a designer in the open source world back in 2004, there was like 2 or 3 of us, and so, I just kind of like got going there and, worked on browser technology. I mean, even the hashtag was sort of intended to be kind of an open format or standard that anybody could use to build social platforms and social software. And so along the way, there was some predecessors to Product Hunt, that would allow you to post the products that you used. One of them was called I Use This. And then I Use This eventually went away and Product Hunt came out. And it was a way for me to help founders, makers, builders, get the word out. And so because I had worked with engineers and open source people, and they're not always the best at selling themselves or marketing themselves, I could help to translate the things that they were doing to a broader audience. And so Product Hunt was one of the channels that I found was really useful to have interesting conversations about what people were building.
I should mention
it's astonishing to see the degree to which generative AI tools have taken over Product Hunt. It's unbelievable. What would you say? It really is. 70% now?
That is the number that I use, 70 to 80%. Every day, there's like some, and I think this is one of the things that's, for people who are not too close to it or just reading the headlines, I think what they're missing is the degree to which developers and founders have to embrace this new platform and this shift. And two, the degree that they are. They are building things and they are sort of taking a crack at how to use this stuff. And I think for me, as someone who's always worked in tech and thinks about communication and language and interfaces and product and design and platforms, this new shift is, as big as probably the web and Web 2.0, was, if not bigger, simply because it changes the nature of how people interact with computers and what they expect computers should be able to do for them. So we are just at the very early innings and the very start, and watching it on Product Hunt unfold. Since I launched ChatGPT in December and it became the #1 product of the year. I mean, I've just never seen a product like that I've launched have that kind of reaction response. Yeah. And ChatGPT is obviously very interesting. It's obviously making a huge impact, but it's the tools built using APIs to services like ChatGPT that's the real thing. People say, oh, ChatGPT makes errors, it hallucinates, all this kind of stuff. That's not the point at all. It's like the data set can be your data set. It can be any data set. This is the thing that people don't understand. It's not a search engine. That's right.
It's an approach to information. As Jerome Lanier said, it's a way for humans to collaborate on a massive scale. And so it's really the data set, the errors, all that stuff is really beside the point. It's all these little tools of the kind you find on Product Hunt that is so fascinating and so surprising. Every day it's like, wow, I didn't think of that you could do something like that. It's pretty amazing.
What's the proportion, both of your views, of real things versus bandwagon hopping? It's hard to tell, I know, but I'm just curious.
It is because you'd have to first define what it means to be a real thing. And we are in the stage right now of experimentation. Obviously, ChatGPT is a real thing. I would say, given what Microsoft talked about, their Build conference this week, co-pilots is a new category, just like social media, became a category. And so you can launch all sorts of co-pilots that are differentiated based on the data set that they work on, based on kind of user empathy and understanding what people's needs are and how sophisticated those users might be. For example, I use a number of text editing tools, and they've all added some sort of AI, generation. But then even within those components, you could have a co-pilot or AI generation within their code generation tools. In other words, if you can paste, let's say, Markdown over some code, let's say that you put into a document because you're writing developer docs. Well, within the code editor itself, you could have an AI tool that helps to debug or improve the clarity of your code. So at all these different levels, you just imagine that there's, 1,000 tiny interns kind of running around in all these different text boxes. And I mean, that's kind of where we're at. So to say what's real and what's not, I think it's still a little bit early for that.
Yeah. One of the things that was kind of interesting, we covered the Build keynotes earlier this morning and yesterday morning. And the most interesting part of the keynotes was actually at the very end of today's keynote when Stevie Batish came on. He's a technical fellow at Microsoft. He used to do hardware, now does software. And he, more than anybody at Microsoft, positioned AI's role in software going forward. He said there's three stages we're going to see. There's where is AI? It's beside what you're doing, it's inside what you're doing, and then it's outside what you're doing. Let me explain what each of those means. Beside is kind of where we are now as AI as a helper, AI as a sidebar, Bing Chat, minimally disruptive. Most of the stuff you do continues as it used to, but you can use AI as a little assistant. He says the next stage, and I think this is going to be interesting, and this is clearly what Microsoft wants to be. Maybe they're better positioned to do this than anybody else, especially in what they did not mention, but inferred would be Windows 12, where AI is everywhere. It's the main scaffolding. It's he showed the very famous, or somebody showed maybe it was Rajesh Jha, very famous Doug Engelbart, mother of all demos, with the mouse and the first mouse and the pointer. And he said, we are now moving to the next stage where it's not mouse and pointer, and the input loop isn't waiting for a keystroke or a mouse stroke. It's AI, which means that the UI is going to change, but AI is going to be everywhere. And then the final stage.
Wait. Hold on there for 1 second. I still draw that picture a little more for me.
Well, one of the things we do right now with any computer, your silly Chromebook.
Hey.
My Linux OS in front of me, Mac OS in front of, no, actually you have iPad probably, Mike Elgin. I won't infer.
I'm rocking a Mac.
Yeah, rocking a Mac. Yeah. Is you have applications which you launch to create a document. And for years we've had this applications kind of centric view of computing. Long time though, people have been talking about, Chris will remember this, of course, document-centric computing. We've tried to do this many times. But the idea is that's more how you work as a human. Humans don't say, do I need Word or Excel? Or maybe we do now, but in the old days, you wouldn't. You would say, what do I want to build? Do I need a hammer or a screwdriver? You say, what do I need to build? And you'd focus on what you're building and then use various tools as appropriate. AI will facilitate this because it is the master tool. You'll talk to AI, not to.
It'll figure out what tool to use.
Yeah, and
that's what Grammarly showed a few weeks ago.
I feel like an interface for this would be like Fortnite, where essentially you can build kind of whatever you want,
right?
And like that's actually the problem, is that you'll have infinite choice, and the question then is, how does the AI coach you into like working from what is an enormous space of possibility down to a set of clear either buttons or interactions, or almost like Mad Lib style. Okay, like who is this for? What are you trying to achieve? Like I feel like I think Google was the one that really writes good complaint letters, I guess, for getting refunds and things like that.
Yeah, right. Yes.
I mean, they've seen enough email. You know what I mean?
Like it was good. Yes, they demoed that at Google AI and they said, if you really want to write an angry one here.
Where do I send the complaint letter to Google?
Yeah, right.
What's that email?
Well, there's no one there to read it. All right, so I'm sorry.
AI is going to
number 3.
Well, Fortnite's a good example, Chris, or the master hand in Zelda, the Tears of the Kingdom. One of the reasons Zelda is so hot right now is because you have arbitrary build capabilities, and that's transformed the game. It's fascinating to watch people. So I think what Microsoft's saying is they almost said this explicitly. We're a platform company. They actually put Bill Gates' famous quote up on the screen saying, something's a platform when the people who use it make more money than the platform maker. That the platform facilitates people to create new things. And they're going to even benefit more. And I think that's what Microsoft sees itself as, is the AI platform builder. And for all of the attention that OpenAI gets, let's not forget Microsoft owns nearly half of them, and all of it is running on Azure. So in effect, Microsoft is financing the AI revolution. So that's the second stage, beside, then inside. But the one I think is really most interesting is outside. And Microsoft talked a lot about disparate data sources, orchestration across multiple apps, pulling in, acting as an agent. And Chris also will remember this, Mike will as well. This, the very famous John Scully video with the knowledge navigator and the little AI with the bow tie. The whole idea of it acting as your agent and pulling things in, your Jarvis, if you will, Jeff, pulling in things and from everywhere. From all of the world, and becoming your kind of intermediary to the real world. And this is what I see. This is Microsoft saying, this is what we think the future is going to be, and this is where we want to be. Now, whether it will be or not is another matter. But
another perspective on the external use of AI occurred to me, and I'm sure it's not an original thought at all, but it just sort of kind of blew me away when I was really thinking about it, which is that no matter where augmented reality goes, and I'm certain that augmented reality is going to be much bigger than virtual reality, even if it isn't, it's going to be huge. Augmented reality we're all going to be talking about it after the Apple WWDC next week. And some of us have been talking about it for a decade, but there's no augmented reality. The future of augmented reality is going to be heavily dependent on AI, to the point where the AI part is the indispensable part. The visuals, the holograms, all that stuff is theoretically dispensable. What I mean by that is AI is going to see and interpret the world for us. It's going to take in all that data, figure out what's going on, and then use that information to then give us advice, nudge us here and there, answer our questions, do all that kind of stuff with an awareness about what's going on in the world. So the AI to interpret the world, and then AI to figure out how to help us with the world, our surroundings, is going to be the most, for sure, going to be the most important part of augmented reality. And
you almost have to have it in order to interact with the world. There'll be so much input. You'll need something to filter it.
The smoke and mirrors part, the visuals, the holograms, the 3D, the Magic Leap stuff. Well, that stuff's going to take forever. And the applications for that kind of thing are going to take forever. I'm ready, and I think everybody's ready for an AI augmented reality right now with just voice, right? And so I think we're like on the brink of, I think this year we're going to see a lot of things like that, where we're talking to a voice, the voice is talking to us, and AI is interpreting the world and figuring things out for us.
All right.
And that's augmented reality.
I have at least 2, if not 3 AI bullish people on. I want to tell you my dirty little secret. I don't buy any of this. I am not. I am bearish on AI, and here's why. I think about self-driving cars. I think about speech-to-text interfaces, handwriting recognition. It seems to have been always the case that the first 90% can be done and be very impressive. But the last 10% is such a failure that cars run into kids, and Siri has no idea what you just asked it, and your handwriting turns into farm. And I think we've seen this over and over again, and I worry that we are once again falling for what is a hype cycle, because the first 90% is so damn impressive.
Well, it's not just the last 10%. The last 10% of the last 10% is almost impossible.
Yes, it's Zeno's paradox. You're never going to get there. Right. So, Chris, I'll let you defend this, because, Chris, obviously you are a believer. I mean, history might be on my side. Why is this going to be different?
Like the way I'm looking at this is really about resetting assumptions about what computing is. So, I often try to think about generationally, kids coming up now who are in school, who are learning to work with ChatGPT, will have a completely different set of assumptions about what the interaction paradigm should be when they pick up a device.
Right.
Already there's some kind of skepticism. We grew up obviously, and these things are still magical. Like, those of us who choose to stay on Twitter still think that Twitter is amazing, whereas the younger generation is like, this is like, it's just text. Like, this is so boring. Where's the video? Where's the interaction? Where's the game like stuff? So I do think that, for a certain generation, a certain cohort, certain set of people, the AI is not going to be that relevant to them. I mean, there's a story I think today about how car manufacturers are trying to like take out AM radio, from the cars. And there's some contingent of folks who are like, no, like, over my dead, body or whatever. In a similar way, I think there will be so many folks who resist what AI can do for you. And yet another cohort of people for whom these types of conversational interactions will become the de facto way that they actually compute. So that to me is the shift, and that's the difference. And so we have now 30 years, if not longer, maybe 40 or 50 years since the mother of all demos that defined the computing paradigm based on changing human expression to meet what a computer could understand.
Yes.
So moving our finger around to point to things through a metaphor, which was the mouse, or having, a set of keys, rows of keys that you have to like put your fingers on in a certain order to generate commands so the computer knows what to do. Now we are finally in, I built a conversational AI company in 2016 that was just too early, with the assumption that we have built the APIs, we have built the platforms. What was missing was the interface that would allow kind of just-in-time coupling of those services through a conversational or language-based runtime. And that's, to me, the shift that is happening, and it will change everything because, again, people will start building from those new set of assumptions. They won't be building with an assumption that, you have to go through an app store to deliver a little chiclet on people's phones and all the mechanics around like ads and all that other stuff. Now it's going to be intent-based, which, Android has been working on for some time, but you still have to have the metaphor of the app. And I think it just dissolves a lot of those boundaries. And the way that we've organized so much of the digital world, that I think is what's going to fundamentally change.
And Chris, that's the 10,000 foot view. And to me, the 100,000 foot view is that we've been using computers we've been using electrical powered computers since the first half of the 20th century. And in the entire evolution of computing, the way that it changes and evolves is that the computers become more powerful and they work much, much harder to speak the language of humans. And the language of humans ultimately is just storytelling of verbal conversations that we have with other people. So it was inevitable since the 1930s that someday we would have computers that we just talk to and they would talk back to us and they would make sense and they would understand things and help us do things and do things for us and that sort of thing. It's always been the direction of computers. They've always evolved.
So is it the voice interface? Is that? I mean, right now we're sitting
voice, it's just
typing
it's
prompts.
language.
It's not. It's a
It's
command
all
line.
things.
It's language. So
Yeah,
it could be
it's all the
typed.
things that humans do. We're visual animals. We have language that we. This is what we are. It's we're bending it to become something that's part of
ultimately
us.
what we're sort of talking about and pointing to is easily. It's sense making and it's communication. And you're absolutely right. Like all the ways in which humans understand the world through our sensory input, right? First has to be, felt and experienced. And then the second part is then how do you translate those experiences verbally into phonemes that I can then shoot at your ears and that you can also see, my movements and things like that to try to understand the medic, things that are swirling around in my brain. And so that is how we create a kind of union while we are still boundaried. So I'm still me and you are still you. And yet as I describe these things with words, as I shape that reality in your mind, we then come to an understanding. And up until now, we've had to use a lossy type of communication style with computers to approximate what we mean because of the huge amount of sort of sequential compute that's needed to get to something similar to what humans are talking about. Like you can give a computer an image or a photograph and, it's a bunch of, text. If you ever try to like open up a JPEG in a text editor, like it's gibberish. It's nonsense. It's not concepts. But now, thanks to machine learning largely, we've trained the system to have a better sense for patterns and phenomena and to label those phenomenon with human concepts and ideas that now allow the computer to respond to us in a way that is much closer to the way that we understand and interpret and experience the world. And that changes how often and how frequently people will want to use computers because it becomes a lot more accessible and a lot more delightful than the current method, which all of us
and it changes
are quite
who
good at.
Can use computers.
Exactly.
Oh, absolutely.
It changes who can use computers.
It also changes who can use language. This has been my argument about this is that it broadens literacy, both in text and in visuals, images, and in programming. People who can now communicate. Chris, let me ask you, since you went 10,000 feet and Mike went 100,000 feet, I'll go down to hell.
Great.
I keep on trying to look for anyone who has a credible scenario in which they argue that this could destroy mankind. I don't believe it, but have you seen I've never seen the script for that. Except, oh my God, we're all powerful. We have big schlongs and we can do what we want with the world. I've never seen something that takes me through the steps by which that happens. Have you?
I'm obviously there's plenty of sci-fi and, movies that attempt to, tell the story of these things. But I feel like it's a little bit lazy to just make this assumption that, once you add plugins into ChatGPT, suddenly both the system is somehow sentient and also sees humans as a blocker to, enablement. Like one, I think, although these systems can become extremely powerful, and you can have all sorts of different conditions that, emerge from that. It feels like the real risk is almost like, if not a cultural, like decline, that is caused by a set of questions about what is it that humans should be doing with themselves? How should we be doing work? If suddenly, we have a lot of, we already have enough income inequality in the country that suddenly now you have a bunch of sort of executive folks who are hiring AIs to do a bunch of, roles throughout an organization. And that leaves a lot of people without a lot to do and without sort of, like capitalism starts to break down quite a bit when so much of the work that currently is done by people to give them purpose and meaning and a way to contribute to their community suddenly goes away and can be automated and made to be extremely cheap. Like in this country, we've struggled with slavery, and this is a new form of slavery that is not morally reprehensible in the same way. It's different. And so that is something that
what's the machine is a slave?
Yes. Like essentially, if you're using ChatGPT, let's say that you're in college, like there's no reason necessarily for you to write an essay if your goal is to get a credential and then to go into the world and then to show someone this credential to get a job that has now been automated through like automation technology. So instead, like the shift, and this is not exactly answering your question, but I'm suggesting that the thing that I'm most concerned about is that we're not doing a good enough job teaching the skills that will be necessary in this future world, where there is an assumption that, again, people are using these tools day in and day out, and it's in their pocket, right? The tools of empathy, of curiosity, of, listening, proactive listening, nonviolent communication, like all those things are actually quite necessary in this new world, but they're not the things that are taught in school. For the last 100 years or so, we've been teaching people how to, rote memorization, facts, all that stuff. And to Mike's point, we've been building computers that do all that stuff for us so that we don't have to.
We need the humanities involved now.
Yes. So we're sort of coming back full circle into the humanities and philosophy.
Just as they die.
Right, exactly. So I think that's like, if anything, maybe it is that we, bore ourselves without changing what education is about to encourage, deep curiosity and then the ability to ask better questions. These reasoning tools that we're building now will, I think, make a lot of people very lazy, and they'll miss the point of what education could and should be about in terms of personal development, personal growth, personal inquiry, et cetera.
In my journalism school, I started a program with my colleague Carrie Brown in engagement journalism. And the argument is that it doesn't start with our stories. It doesn't start with the journalist's perspective. It starts by listening. And we're oddly bad at that in our field. And other fields like education and retail and government, and listening is a skill that we haven't had. And part of the problem too, part of my argument about the internet and why there's moral panics around it is because people who have always been there and have always been speaking, who were never heard in mass media, now have the opportunity to be heard and resent not being heard. And those who held the stage before resent their voices. And so speaking and listening take on a whole different definition. I like that. I like where you're headed with that, where chat becomes what is it? Is it a curator, a middleman, a gatekeeper, a
facilitator,
or what in between?
Yeah, maybe a facilitator, maybe provide context, to be, either an interpreter or just, again, to sort of ask the questions, because so many people have such a, diverse set of experiences, and we're living in a world, and we're seeing this with social media now, right? Like Twitter obviously was one melting pot of a lot of different ideas and cultures and so on. Now we're, disaggregating again to different edge networks and platforms. Now it's very hard, having left Twitter, for me to have a sense of the zeitgeist of what's going on. Yeah. And so there are little pockets of reality and truth or truthiness that are popping up, and I'm encountering them, and they're very confusing. It's very, bewildering maybe. And so anyways, a type of AI or a conversational agent that can be there to help me understand what's gone on before, what is the context of this place that I find myself in, what are some of the appropriate norms and ways to speak, could really smooth over our movement through these digital environments.
That's an interesting
That's what's interesting
vision.
about Blue Sky.
Yeah, well, Blue Sky's get humans.
They're getting ready for agents.
An interesting
Their argument is
are
they're going to bring in those agents next.
I think that's interesting that to Twitter, a read-only Twitter that is created by AI. But I have to say, I'm still skeptical because the content AI produces is so anodyne, so phony at this point, and I don't think it's going to get
us.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to get any better. I think there's a little bit of a science fiction leap that you're making that it will somehow, achieve this fluency that I don't necessarily.
I think if you think about it more from a collaboration Like,
yes.
Those who use it for collaboration, I think will actually sprint much further than those who don't. I also think that
poets and novelists who are doing just that.
Yeah.
Are they making better poetry and better fiction because of it?
Yes, they're being inspired. But the other way to look at it, Leo,
I
is that
doubt
if you want to know how to leap
I think a
past
tree is much more
cliches-
inspiring than any AI would ever be, but okay.
Man, if you hooked up a tree to AI, that would be a book I would want to read.
The one right behind Krista.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If you want to me, what's interesting is if you have this thing that has 3 trillion connections in language, it's telling you everything that all the cliches we've had. It challenges you then to go beyond them.
You still have to think beyond the cliche, and all you're getting is the cliche.
The machine won't.
What? So you got a great cliche generator.
That's where the collaboration
What's
comes
the
in.
value of a cliche generator? That's not useful.
So have you read any high schoolers' essays?
Yes, exactly.
They're horrible.
Yes.
Machines really should be doing those. But I think the analogy that I like so far, and we'll see if any new emerging facts jars this away from me. But basically, I think it's very similar to photography and what it did to painting. Before photography, painting was something we used to record visual scenery or visual things. People sat for portraits, and it was a kind of propaganda. It was a lot like Stable Diffusion is now, where it's kind of an idealized version of the aristocrat standing there, like in a kind of a phony environment. We used it for capturing faraway scenes and landscapes of places where we're far away from any place you'd ever go, and you would look at it and go like, "Wow, that's what it's like there. That's amazing." And so we used the painting as a way to capture what was really there. As soon as we had photography that could really capture what was really there, well, suddenly painting just exploded into 1,000 styles of surrealism and all these different things that we really love. It really it freed humans to be super creative and to do things that humans can do that cameras can't.
So we no longer need to write the cliches. The AI will do it, and we can do something more original.
Well, I think. So for example, we on the rundown is a missive by Sundar Pichai. You know my feelings about Sundar Pichai, who's writing in the Financial Times, and his entire thing feels like it was written by AI. I don't think it was, but it's like you say, it's anodyne. He's a boring writer. He doesn't make any mistakes. He's careful about everything. Everything's couched in these sort of platitudes and so on. That's how AI writes by default. Then you can tell it to be sassy or whatever. And it's not very good at those sort of things. It's not very good at summary for the most part. But again, this stuff has been with us since January. I mean, give it 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah, I really think that like seeing the younger generation come up with this as a core, tool. And I think the photography example is pretty good because by and large, especially given all the cameras in people's pockets now and the sheer volume of terrible photos that have been produced as a result of putting cameras in everybody's pockets doesn't mean that those who have real talent or vision can't then use that tool for something more transcendent. And I've seen, so far, for example, musicians who maybe normally don't write vocals or lyrics, to their songs, be able to use something like ChatGPT to just get something, to get a riff, to get a line, to get like something that sort of inspires or gets them going. And ultimately, if this is the best solution to the blank slate problem or the blank page problem, then that means that, I spent a walkabout year kind of traveling the world thinking that I was going to like write a book about my experiences, and I got nowhere because of this blank page problem. So if I have ChatGPT or something like it that not only harasses me into like sitting down and like spending, an hour writing, and then also is like, okay, tell me about this or tell me about that. I feel like as a creative tool to extract things out of a person, then that's a way to, again, to understand these tools and to put them into the current context. I mean, it's, you think about it from a different perspective. This is something that we actually tried to work on Google Plus, which, Mike, I know you were there for that. Is the question like, what is the prompt? And currently, whether it's Twitter or whether it's Blue Sky or any of these other platforms, they ask you something, the prompt, like what's going on, what's on your mind, like what's happening. There's been loads of tests, but all within a very sort of fine mix. You can imagine that a ChatGPT or some other GPT tool could actually propose topics that you might be interested in based on what's, both your interests personally and then what's been going on in your network, right? So for lots of people who currently find it hard to participate in social media or are mostly lurkers, this could be a facilitation to get their voice, their perspective into the mix. And then they can be coached on how to express themselves in a way that gives them greater confidence. Just like having spell check or grammar check. This is almost like concept check. And that could actually be a great enabler for hearing from more people.
I need to take a little break. If you want to rush over to Twitter and the Twitter space, where Ron DeSantis is about to announce his candidacy for presidency.
An hour ago, it said it was in 2 hours. Later.
Yeah, no, it's at 3 o'clock. It's right now, 3 o'clock Pacific. Oh. 27,000 people are in there right now. I don't see Mr. DeSantis in there yet, nor do I see Elon Musk, nor the man I thought was going to be the host, David Sachs. So I don't know what's happening, but it's now. But
Florida man is missing.
Florida man is gone. I do want to talk a little bit about our sponsor, AG1 from Athletic Greens. They got it right here. These are the travel packs, which I really, really like. I love the idea of everything you need in one little pouch. You add to water. Yes, you can use cool water. It tastes fantastic. And you get everything you need. You don't need a lot of supplements. You don't need anything else. Just AG1 in the morning. It was founded in 2010. Parts of millions of routines since. In fact, I was really surprised. Aunt Prince said, "Oh yeah, I've been taking that forever." Oh, okay. It saves you time. It saves you confusion. It even saves you money. Each serving costing less than $3 a day. And let me tell you, it's got everything you need. Vegan, paleo, keto, and low carb, in case you're interested. No GMOs, no gluten. It's actually a really clean vitamin product. Well, not just vitamins, minerals, and pro and prebiotics, the kinds of things you really do want. It makes it easier for you to take the very highest quality supplements, whether it's improving digestion, supporting you with sleep. AG1, the best bang for your buck. Just a scoop of AG1 in the morning covers your entire day's nutritional bases. Get all your supplements. Support your long-term health with AG1's 75 high-quality minerals, vitamins, pre- and probiotics, and it actually tastes fantastic. If you're looking for a simpler, cost-effective supplement routine, AG1 by Athletic Greens, if you go right now to athleticgreens.com/twig, you'll get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D, little droppers. You can put in as much as you need each day, and 5 of these travel packs free with your first purchase of a subscription. athleticgreens.com/twig. We thank them so much for their support of the show. And thank you for supporting us by going to that address, athleticgreens.com/twig. Are you listening to the
it says I can't fetch it.
Can't fetch it.
It's not working.
Yeah, I noticed
able to fetch space.
The number of listeners is going down. Oof, so maybe there's something going on. Maybe Twitter can't handle it. Yeah. I noticed one of your jobs. I know you consult Chris Messina. I noticed one of your clients is Neeva.
Yes.
So sad about Neeva. I've been flogging Neeva for months.
He has been. Oh, he has been.
I love it. I love the AI generated synopsis at the beginning. I was paying $5 a month because I didn't want ads. It was. Now they're selling out and they're closing down and they're refunding my money. Do you have any insight into what happened?
It's I started out kind of advising Sridhar. Certainly there was a lot of alignment in terms of what Neeva was working on.
He was at Google, head of advertising at Google. So
yes, yeah. So we have that background together. But I think there were a number of things that happened. They did a bunch of different and interesting experiments. There was a whole effort that they'd focused on around Web3 and NFTs and kind of, just trying lots of stuff to see, what the next wave of the web might be like. And, I don't have any specifically insider information about this particular thing, but I think the thing that he said, which is the thing that we saw this with Google Plus as well, is hard, is like changing behavior.
Yeah.
Even if you have a better product, just the muscle memory and the distribution that Google has is really, really difficult to break through. Yeah. And so, it's interesting, one of the reasons why I reached out before was, of course, talking about, Twitter and ActivityPub and those things. And we face a similar question, as to whether or if some of these other networks that are coming up now, where it's like Google doesn't even have, Google has some network effects, but for the search experience, it's largely a private personal experience. And yet the muscle memory is so ingrained, you almost have to do some psychedelics or something to just break free from the way you think about it. But I think that was the thing that Neeva really, struggled to overcome.
It's the tyranny of the default.
It's the default. Yeah.
I kind of was souring on Google just because the above the fold stuff was less and less search results. I just kind of said, I need something that's going to give me search results. Neeva gave me pretty good search results. And then when they turned on the AI, I kept showing all these poor guys are so bored with it. I kept showing it to them. June 2nd.
Chris, do you ever use a AI search engine called Find, P-H-I-N-D?
I have not actually.
PHIND.com. Check it out.
I'm looking for a Neeva replacement. I'll have to check out AI search engine for developers.
For developers. Yeah.
It's code.
But I don't know why it's for developers. It works for all-purpose searches.
Have you tried Perplexity?
It gives you a Google-like result and also an AI GPT-like result side by side. It's pretty good.
Quite good. Yeah. Nice. I think Perplexity is sort of in a similar realm. I think it's perplexity.ai. It's interesting how there's it feels like a standard in interface design that was largely inspired by ChatGPT, where it's sort of like chat box, but then they give you sort of like starter conversations to get going.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. The Neeva thing is super interesting. Obviously, they'd raised a bunch of money to go after this problem, but I think the LLM stuff changed everything, and it woke up the sleeping giants, and now it's like game on. And so it's Microsoft versus Google. And as an upstart, had like ChatGPT and OpenAI really not come on the scene as they did, I think Neeva, could have had their runway and continued, chasing that dragon. But now that the big guys are awake and actually like launching their stuff, like Google had all this stuff, behind closed doors, that makes it much harder, without billions of dollars of investment, to do the same.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is pretty good, actually. I'm just trying to get it. I'm trying to get it to write some code for me. Let's see if it can do it.
See if you can spin up a Twitter Spaces clone competitor.
Yeah. Right. I need the dial tone of the internet. Can you get to work on that real quick? Okay. Sort of good. And what was the other one? Perspective, huh?
Perplexity.
I'm sorry, Perplexity.
Yeah.
But a lot of these, unfortunately, it's so hard to make a search engine's index. A lot of them are just using Bing's or Google's index. And this looks good. I'll have to.
Well, that's another question. Do not just indexes, but trading sets become a commodity?
I mean, obviously, like one of the ways that I think about AI is a lot of people have talked about data as kind of a new oil. And I think that metaphor is a little bit, gross and tired. I tend to think about it more like varietals, and, granted I'm in California, so I would think that, but like, I think that with data, it's a little bit like terroir. It's the specific kind of, region where different aspects of the data has different levels of complexity, different levels of expressivity, different metadata that's attached to it, and so, those varietals are kind of, the weather, the atmosphere, the ground, the grape growing area, as well as the people who are then cultivating those things, and they have a certain taste or preference. And so when it comes to building, whether it's a search engine or a reasoning tool built around a large language model, it isn't so much that I think the training data becomes a commodity, but there are different expressions of it in different use cases. You might have a, general purpose, like large government body data set, and it might have a bunch of extraneous stuff that just isn't really that relevant or that useful. And so tweaking those models, deciding what goes in, what stays in, what goes out, how to, cross-reference, like identity, ironically, which is something I spent a lot of my career working on, becomes an even bigger problem, because now you want to be able to know from one data set to another, what are the same, like, reflectivity, like, is this object in this data set the same thing as in that data set? And what are the other relationships between those things? So that's also the way in which these things are not necessarily commodity per se, but they can be blended, if you will, to create new types of data sets, whether they're synthetic or not.
What do you think of the argument in the Stochastic Parrots paper that ever larger learning sets are meaningless and counterproductive and hard to manage and really not the point?
Hold on a second. Let me just interrupt. I was in the wrong group. Elon has launched his group for the
his
DeSantis,
presidential campaign.
His presidential campaign. I can't get it to run, but he's got 375,000 in there. So I think I was in a side And this is one of the problems, of course. I was in a side group.
You're in one from a verified user, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is.
Where do you even find it?
Yeah, it's in the trends.
Top.
Yeah. Elon Musk is the host. I'm a listener, apparently. So is Yashar Ali, Alexis Ohanian, Michael Beschloss, Alex Wagner, Laura Ingraham, Caitlyn Jenner. It's a who's who of Tommy Lauren, Matt Gaetz, Rudy Giuliani, and there's Ron DeSantis. He's just listening for right now.
He probably can't figure out how to get.
Says, how do I talk on here? I guess Elon.
When Rudy Giuliani ran for president, honest to God, his Twitter account was private.
Can I? Let me just turn on the sound here. Can you hear? I'm just curious. I think it's Elon talking at this point. Can I rebroadcast this? I don't know. You know what? I wonder if I should report this space as being offensive to my liberal ears. Yeah,
that's right.
I imagine they'll have that turned off. Anyway, well, I guess we can't hear it. So,
well, there's no staff there to shut it down anyway. So,
oh, that's true. That's true. And he's still not paying the rent, which really is kind of been amazing.
Well, but
Linda
it came out yesterday that his building is not earthquake safe, so maybe he'll use that as an excuse.
Oh, there you go.
This is a dumb question.
Yeah.
How do you get to Spaces?
Do you know how to? There's this thing called Twitter.
Button.
You'll find it at twitter.com.
Yeah, I'm there.
Yeah, and then over on the right-hand side. Well, let me refresh because probably it doesn't.
I see TechCrunch.
Oh, it's not there anymore. It's not there.
Yeah, they've been moving stuff.
It's on mobile. Check it out on mobile.
It was there. It was right here in the trending. Maybe if I explore.
Wow, my Spaces bar just went away. Yeah, Twitter crashing hard right now.
It's crashing hard. That's what's happening. Yeah. There we go. Listen live in Spaces. It should be up here. Preparing to launch is the name of that one. Now 473,000 people in there, including all these famous and semi-famous.
That would be so good if, like, the one moment where Elon tries to like showcase his new purchase is the moment when Twitter actually finally crashes. Like all the predictions about it shitting the bed. Yeah, right. It's like
somewhere
run your presidential campaign here.
Who's saying, "I knew this had happened."
Great.
Oh, I heard Elon.
All right. Well, it's certainly an incredible honor to have Governor DeSantis make this stark announcement.
What the hell?
What the hell's that?
Please wait. It's like space music.
Okay.
I guess we're going to Mars, guys. That's it.
We're on his roadster off somewhere in the.
That's right.
Jeez Louise. All right. I don't know what that is, but I'm closing it. You mentioned AM radio. Ford has reversed its course and says, all right, we'll leave the AM radio on.
50 cents it costs
in your car. It costs them nothing. In fact, it's a software update. If you, yes, kind of amazing. For any owners of Ford EVs without AM broadcast capability, we'll offer a software update to restore it, said CEO Jim Farley. So apparently they're building them with AM radios. They just disable them in software.
Is that, sorry, like, my mind is going to like several different places because there's a lot of things that have been changing in the audio world. Obviously, we saw that with Twitter Spaces, but like when it comes to audio in cars, obviously that's a really relevant ad channel. And so whether you're streaming Spotify or other platforms like that, that's all coming over, I presume, digital frequencies, perhaps. So if it's a software update, does that mean that the hardware is just being turned on and turned off for AM, or is AM content being streamed over like
I don't think so.
Connection?
I don't think so, because one of the reasons I think they're bringing AM back is because there's been movement in Congress. AM is a critical emergency channel for.
That's what I would expect.
Yes,
and so that's why
you need a hardware radio
software update.
Yeah. You need a hardware radio because there are plenty of places in the U.S. you can't get your.
That's right.
Cell signal.
That's right.
And so if it is
but with like Starlink and other types of satellite coverage, look, I'm not disagreeing. I have the same question.
Elon does not, as you know, in your Tesla, Elon does not put AM radio in your Tesla.
It does not. So if everyone needs to go to Mars, I will not be notified. If a message goes out over AM, it'll be on Twitter Spaces.
Nope. Boop, 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 boop.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the debacle that is this announcement, and Twitter keeps crashing. DeSantis keeps being demoted to a listener rather than a speaker.
My God.
It's symbolic. It's symbolic.
God. Yeah. There are 500,000 people. The number continues to rise of people trying to listen.
They should have used Clubhouse.
Here's Brian Stelter's tweet is, this space is not available. Yeah, I think it's, in fact, I can't get it to do anything. It's kind of dark now.
Another embarrassing blunder for Elon Musk.
Let me join
for prime time.
Laura Ingraham and see what's going on. One more time, we'll give it a shot here.
I bet he's throwing all of his ad inventory at everyone who's trying to get on the space right now. That's what's happening. He's got to pay those bills, man.
Well, there you go. So I'm sure we'll find out more about this on the evening news. Well,
if you go to the Explore tab, at least for me, again, I don't know what's personalized and what's not, but Musk is a trending topic with 986,000 tweets, and DeSantis has 170,000 tweets. So talk about being a ratio.
Yeah. He's not even. That's how Elon likes it, and that's how we're going to keep it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is Joe Biden tweeting? Oh, well, let's see what the president has to say. Jack Dorsey.
He just came back.
Who?
Then silence again.
Are you listening?
Looks like we're ready to go here.
Oh,
that was
Lord.
silence again.
Oh, Lord. Jack Dorsey apparently is now endorsing. Let's see. Let me find that story.
Endorsing who?
RFK Jr. At least he's retweeting.
No.
Yeah. Posted 2 videos in the past week featuring RFK Jr.
Oh, man.
Who is, of course, a big COVID and anti-vax conspiracy nut.
And more.
Yeah. So what is it about people? They get red pilled. Oh, I hear Elon.
That was B.
Did he say there's too many people?
It's unfortunate. I'd like to have seen this before from Governor DeSantis for this start.
Oh, this is not good.
No.
Are you, Chris? Do you mourn this a little bit? The loss of Twitter and where Twitter has gone, and I'm mourning it. I feel like it's sad.
I went through definitely a period of grief. Just because again, this place and space, it is like a neighborhood that sort of that goes downhill. Yeah, and it was a place that you could go to, and whenever you had like a down moment, there was always something interesting. And there still is interesting things going on, but it's sort of like they've taken out the plumbing and. It's just like porta potties around, and you're kind of like, is anyone going to clean this up? It's in that sense, it's sad. And I don't think there's much conversation about grieving of the loss of Twitter, and yet in terms of the purpose that it served, it doesn't serve that function anymore. There's going to be a generation that grows up without Twitter as we knew it.
There is that discussion around Black Twitter. There's a story in the rundown today that climate scientists are kind of leaving en masse as a group. I think that we see it around communities rather than Twitter as a whole. Journalists still don't know what to do.
I mean, so this is again the thing that I was interested in the conversation you guys had previously about ActivityPub and about these migrations. I do think that the dissolution of a social platform like this, like I think it's interesting having been on the inside of Google Plus as it was being built and having designed parts of it.
Bless you, sir. Bless you.
Well, and also struggling mightily, in a lot of the kind of idea. Some of the ideas were good. Some of the ideas were completely orthogonal to what or how humans tend to want to interact with each other. And so, if you come at it from a more, I don't know, observational perspective, then maybe you can build better software. Anyways, this question of like where these communities go and how they move and whether or not we should build into the fabric of the social web that ability to, leave if a place becomes toxic or no longer serves its function.
Is anyone afraid that a year from now that Twitter will be the right-wing Twitter and Blue Sky will be the left-wing Twitter?
And is that a good thing?
I think about a week from now, Mike.
Yeah,
I was going to say. So.
Here is the Biden tweet. Throwing a little subtweet, I think. This link works.
Right, now it's on.
Yeah, now it's on.
But to give money, okay.
Yeah, to give money. Yeah. Interesting. He's not having a Spaces chat.
Neither is Elon right now.
Apparently, are you monitoring it?
I was trying to, but now it's
no. There's nothing, huh? Interesting.
Most of my tweets running. Yeah, most of what I'm seeing are people saying that it's not working.
The Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy, says social media may harm children and adolescents, a profound risk of harm to adolescent mental health, urges families to set limits and governments, to set.
Looks like, David Sachs. If you go to David Sachs's tweets, he just posted a space with Ron DeSantis. So,
but they created a new one?
Yeah. maybe because Elon has too many followers, so Elon can't start the space.
Oh, that might be.
That could be.
That might be. So let's see here. Tulsi Gabbard in there. David Sachs is hosting this one. And there's Ron and a bunch of other people.
Oh, it's that noise again.
Who chose this music?
Guess. Take a wild guess.
Is this what DeSantis plays at his gatherings?
It's unbelievable. The Biden administration's Surgeon General, let's point that out, called on tech companies to enforce minimum age limits and to create default settings for children with high safety and privacy standards. And he urged the government to create age-appropriate health and safety standards for technology platforms. Fine. What are you going to do?
So, Leo, below I have a thread on 79 where I went back. I so happens I was researching this, just the part of the book I'm writing now, where I went back to 51 years ago and the Surgeon General report on television violence, 5-volume monstrous thing, 40 years ago on video games.
This is every few decades.
Ones. Yes, and they're all the same. They all end up the same. And then the interesting thing was Professor Corn Revere, who's a really good First Amendment scholar, had a really good post about the a video game one that went to the Supreme Court. And you see the First Amendment lesson, it happened again and again and again and again. And it has to be retaught. And so in the Supreme Court ruling on Brown, California, versus whatever entertainment company it was, there's a quote that gets reused now constantly about the First Amendment but in one of the footnotes, Scalia was arguing with I think Alito, somebody, and he described a ridiculous law that should never happen. And what he described was Utah's law that just went into effect. And so we go around on this moral panic Mandela over and over and over again. And that's not to say that there isn't plenty worth studying, and there isn't plenty to be concerned about, and there isn't plenty to support parents with. And that's all true. But the Surgeon General's report says nothing about guns in seals,
right,
about
that
young
seems
women
like
losing
a more
control of their
proximate
bodies,
danger.
about climate change, about the economy, about all of these things. Oh, no. It's all phones.
Yeah.
Well, the weird thing, and I think this was acknowledged, there's a certain degree of, I guess it's refreshing honesty, or it's more honest, the Surgeon General's statements than I would have expected. But he basically points out that the problem is that we haven't studied it enough.
Oh my
we don't
God,
know
have we studied it? Oh
whether the
my
harms are.
God,
there have been studies, and they point out that there's there's probably more harm than benefits, but the benefits are there. Actually, the existence of social media in the lives of young people is actually a huge benefit in a number of ways that include, a sense of a place to express creativity, a place to find connection with people, for people to help, find people to help them through their adolescent problems and so on. On the downside, there's bullying problems. There's like self-esteem issues,
as in lunchrooms.
Exactly. So,
but Mike, very important.
It seems to me that
you bring up a really important point. Claire Kane Miller of the Times, to her great credit, and the Times, to her great credit, had a story today talking about how important social media is to LGBTQ teens, especially now when they're being assaulted in some states all around. They're not being allowed to live as themselves. And so the existence, and which Murthy acknowledged in his report. He had a thick paragraph about the benefits, just as you just did, Mike. And he acknowledged the importance to LGBTQ young people. Without that, they'd be even more lost.
I mean, doesn't it seem like the other piece of this is to suggest that social media either also harms adults and parents, or that they are actually one of the leading causes of some of this harm and abuse? Because, adults and parents tend to set the norms and the behaviors for their kids, and to assume that kids should somehow develop, some sort of moral clarity or alacrity in the absence of those examples seems to ignore some of the fundamental distortions from social media.
In fact, I think they do exactly that. You see a fluidity of movement of younger people from one social network to another for various reasons.
True.
I mean, you saw people rushing to Snapchat because, years ago, because they could have a group of, interact with 12 people instead of 1,000.
Actually, now
right?
Discord is that for a lot of teens.
Exactly. So it seems like, on the whole, one of the interesting things about younger people as a demographic is that they're quicker and sort of better at finding spaces on social.
Social media in some ways is more disposable to them.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's more and again, it's sort of reflecting back on how we grew up with this. And so, my accounts on social media are so valuable to me. They're so personal and I want to hold on to them forever. I think what I see in, this is true in a lot of other communities, is kind of a willingness to abandon or let go of, or just kind of use disposable identities, constantly. And especially earlier on, I think one of the things that's interesting about this report, and this is a constant conversation that I just do not know how to square with, American conventions, values, and laws, which is causing social media platforms to be better at identifying young people underage and then restricting their access and use without some sort of identity regime that requires everyone, every kid basically to have an ID that is attached to them somehow in a way that is completely against so many of the principles of privacy and security. So we want, the cake to eat, and to eat it too, but it's not really realistic, I think, to put the onus of parenting and controlling access to these platforms exclusively on the platforms themselves.
Chris, there's a great quote. I just read this paper today by Kirsten Drottner from Pedagogica Historica. I read all the fun things.
Welcome to Wednesday.
Is it in Latin?
No.
Is that a real library behind you?
A one-line quote. On a social level, media panics basically attempt to reestablish a generational status quo that the youthful pioneers seem to undermine. You're right on target that it is about age. It is about generations. It's about parents either saying they're protecting their young people, or as so much in moral panics, it's about hooliganism and vandalism and delinquency. And so it's either condemning our young people or protecting them because you don't trust them in that way either. And the young people know what the hell they're doing. And they're figuring it out. And you're right. There are us elders or not.
I mean, I feel like the ways to, well, I don't know, I do have a role as a parent now. And, I do think a lot about how to equip kids to be in these media environments and to understand what is, if not real, just what is important about what people say and don't say. And, we've got a 13-year-old here at home who runs a Discord server, and I've had to teach them about being responsible as a server admin, because they determine who is in the server and who is not in the server.
I would love to hear those moderation lessons.
Well, I'm learning as I go, but thankfully I've run my own Discord server so I can have that conversation. Think about all the parents out there who have not run their own Discord servers, let alone even know what a Discord server is.
Yeah.
Right. So, and yet those folks, those are the folks who are trying to tell their kids how to behave and how to do things. And there's a whole subgenre or subterranean world of social interactions that are happening in these spaces that are affecting kids and their mental health and their sense of security and safety in their communities and their environments that are completely opaque to parents. And so parents are like, oh, let's, get the Surgeon General to say this is a problem and to crack down and to restrict access. But that doesn't solve for the underlying interactions and behaviors that are going to happen anyway. As you said, in the lunchroom, that is a visible space. And yet school interactions happen outside of school now, whether it's on text messaging or whether it's in these chats. And so the vernacular and the language that needs, we talked about this earlier with ChatGPT being sort of a context provider for parents, where it's what is it that your child understands about social media and technology? And then what do you understand about social media and technology? And where are the gaps? And can you facilitate a conversation so that both can at least come into those conversations with a broader lens for what belonging in this moment means to that generation?
Yes.
Would that be useful? Or that sounds like what you were answering Jeff's question about what are the hazards of AI? If AI is prescribing parental...
it depends on, the relationship that you want to have with your kids.
The machine said I should be talking about sex, so sit down and shut up.
I'm suggesting that you don't want the government enforcing it.
I agree. You don't want the government involved.
It seems to me by the time you get around to doing something about it, they're all gone and off somewhere else.
Right.
It's like, I just don't, there's so much dynamism in trends in social interaction among teenagers that it's like you don't have a prayer of like, it's a game of whack-a-mole. You don't have a prayer of clamping down on TikTok because by the time you do, they'll be off TikTok and on the newest thing that doesn't even exist yet. So,
well, as we predicted, 5 creators in Montana have sued now over the state law, and TikTok has now entered the fray.
And TikTok itself, right?
It is also suing. Yeah, I thought it might not just let the creators do the heavy lifting, but they filed a federal lawsuit against Montana.
It's clearly a First Amendment violation.
It's a First Amendment.
I mean, who knows with the Supreme Court, but it is. But
it's wild that that's happening also, in Montana, of all places.
Yeah.
It's also lazy, right? First of all, Montana is doing something. They're basically doing international relations.
Right, right.
As a state. But the other thing is that they're just basically they're saying, okay, Apple and Google, you guys, we're going to crack down on you if you don't enforce this stuff. And it's pretty ridiculous. It's like if you're on one side of a state line, you can download an app. If you're on the other side of the state line, 5 feet away, you can't. This is not going to work.
Apple has said prior to the law being introduced, or actually when it was introduced but not passed, that they did not have a technical means to prevent people in Montana from downloading TikTok. I find that hard to believe. I think you could create the Great Firewall of Montana if you really wanted to. I
don't think that's how the internet works, but
I don't know.
I'm glad that you hallucinated that idea.
Oh, can't you just say, well, let me look at that IP address. Oh yeah, you're in Montana. No. You could.
They did this for Pornhub too,
Yeah,
and
they do it now for Utah.
If you're motivated,
yeah,
right.
If Pornhub can block itself,
the VPN business
in Utah,
is great.
Yeah,
right.
It's great news for VPN providers.
Exactly.
Yeah, Mozilla might still have a business.
Are you excited about Instagram's new text-based app for conversation? This is from Gia
the fact
Haberman.
that it at least seems to have federation built in and it wants to interoperate.
They say soon our app will be
ActivityPub.
Soon our app will be compatible with certain other apps like Mastodon. I'm not sure what that means, but it sounds like there'll be ActivityPub.
So let's have a race, Blue Sky and Instagram. Who's going to get there first?
Yeah.
I've been having a lot of conversations with people who are actually building bridges between ActivityPub and Blue Sky or at Protocol. And I think that's like, it's so funny because I started working on this stuff in 2006, 2007. And finally, some of these ideas are coming to fruition, and so it's interesting to see that Blue Sky picked up a bunch of these ideas and yet kind of reinvented the wheel once again. So now it's like, oh, great. Now we have like 5 standards. Now we have to choose among them. But actually, they're close enough that maybe we can get to some alignment. And maybe this Instagram thing could actually push it forward. I mean, we'll see.
You don't have a favorite between AT Proto and ActivityPub? I
think they're actually complementary. As I've dug in a little bit more, I understand that what Blue Sky is trying to solve for is actually different than ActivityPub. And so, considering like I helped to create the Activity Streams format that then turned into ActivityPub, the original goal was about syndicating a greater richness of activities beyond just what RSS encoded, which was blog posts. And so now that ActivityPub is quite mature and now there's software behind it, the alignment between what Blue Sky is trying to do from an identity portability perspective is compatible with the way of expressing the activities that ActivityPub uses. So essentially you get some aspects of identity and the tree structure. And I don't know, there's a bunch of like weird mutation stuff that I don't quite understand in the app protocol, but it's not completely incompatible. In fact, the app protocol uses things like an actor and a verb, to encode its content. So it's already there. And the work is being done currently to see if those things can actually
align.
And the Flipboard announcement is really interesting because basically from within Flipboard, you can reply to, you can repost content from either PixelFed or Blue Sky. And it's like, wow, if you can do that on a site like Flipboard, then wow, it's
if Medium is doing it, and if a lot of publishers, Jeff, to your earlier point about media folks, leaving and, trying to find someplace other than Twitter. In fact, if there is federation and an underlying protocol that can link all these things together, it almost doesn't matter in the short term where they end up, as long as they kind of move together.
That's the dream. Well, this is also, So
Right?
Dave Weiner, Leo, I don't know if you saw, Dave Weiner put up set up an RSS feed for your Blue Sky. Fortunately, you have nothing to feed into it.
He set up an RSS feed for my Blue Sky?
Yes, yours and mine and a few others.
Well, I better
Because
Dave is
post
always gonna
something.
come
Come back to
Yes.
RSS.
Everything's an RSS feed.
Yeah.
Does Blue Sky support RSS natively? I know Mastodon does. Do you have to do
I
something?
doubt it.
Yeah.
Mostly because I don't think it's super relevant to their audience.
Right.
You know, I mean, I don't think it'd be that hard to build. And now that the clients are open source, yeah, exactly. So
but he's scraping it probably.
It's sort of ironic to like take something that's like rich, like an activity object, and then reduce it down to like RSS. It's like
a one-way.
It's sort of like you have like a PNG protocol. Or really great graphics, and you're like, let's smash this into a JPEG.
I'm sure that Dave has answers. But
I know.
It is
the last time I talked to Dave, I said, "Why do you make me sign up with Twitter on all of your web stuff?" And he got mad at me, and I haven't spoken to him since. So I'm glad he's including my Blue Sky. I know my Blue Sky feed.
By the way, did you guys see that? It looks like Snowflake has actually gone through with the Neeva acquisition.
Ah, good. I mean, I guess good.
Yeah.
Good for Neeva. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Snowflake is an AI company. They were interested not in Neeva's search capabilities, but in their AI.
Yes.
Was Neeva using, do you know, ChatGPT, or were they doing something separate? I think they came out before ChatGPT.
I mean, they might have been using GPT, though. They might have been using the OpenAI APIs for what they were doing. Right. But yeah.
I thought that was actually a good use for search. But even at Microsoft's event, which there's going on right now, Build, talking about search, every time on the very tiny print at the bottom, it says results AI generated, not factual accuracy, not guaranteed. And I think that that's a problem in the long run, or maybe just the short run.
That's why search may be the wrong place for it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's weird that we've lived so long without disclaimers at the bottom of search results to say these results might be sponsors.
Good point.
So,
good point. Okay, you're right. Yeah. But at least the link is to something that exists. We know that
which could also be completely fabricated, right?
Well, that's
true.
like,
I mean, it's sort of like when you click to something on LinkedIn, it's like, oh, you're leaving the LinkedIn walled garden now. And you're like,
watch out.
Does that mean that there are snakes?
Yeah. Do we want to start a pool on how many people get fired at Twitter after this Spaces debacle? Is
there anybody left
to fire?
Exactly. Where's Linda? Is Linda weighing in?
Linda was in the space, so poor Linda.
She was.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Man.
He has more black-owned businesses than any state in the nation. That's what he just said.
Who does?
Ron DeSantis?
Ron DeSantis.
He's talking now.
I have more black-owned. That's scary.
That's like saying I have binders full of women.
Because it's merit, not identity politics. But you can just pop in any second.
There's always something interesting. I know the way that they got this going was by basically booting everybody out. They're down to about 140,000.
Restarting the server.
Yeah, they restarted the server.
We had to do that too.
Elon said, there's never been 500,000 people in a room at the same time. Which is wrong, of course. And
that's wrong.
And then it crashed.
Right.
Be careful what you wish for. That's all I can say. Google has reached a $39.9 million privacy settlement with Washington State. This is not the only state suing Google over the fact that their switch that turns off location didn't turn off location, and they were still collecting location information. Google has promised.
So like this sort of is such a strange, like it juxtaposes so well with what we were just talking about with age gating and TikTok downloads in Montana. It's sort of like lots of people would prefer that these companies not collect this data, but then to do the thing that they actually need to do,
right?
In terms of provisioning access, you can't have the information that's necessary to actually enforce certain rules or laws. So I don't know. It just feels like in the Google case. Now, granted, it's been many years since I've worked there, but like, you just sort of end up collecting this information by virtue of, having an IP address to deliver a web page to someone who has come to your server, and it has to go back there. And the nexus point has to be someplace on the physical earth. Like, how do you get around that? I just. Yeah.
Well, this is the other interesting thing about the Facebook fine, this huge fine.
$1.3 billion.
Where the issue wasn't Facebook and privacy at all. The issue is America. It's Europe not trusting data in America.
Europe said,
same with America and TikTok and data.
The EU told Meta to stop.
An American company and American employees control data that's housed in a European server. How's that different?
Right.
If they don't trust
this
Americans,
is the same TikTok issue.
What difference does it make where this data is?
Right. TikTok said, Oracle's going to store the data, but that wasn't sufficient because Montana and whoever else said, but the Chinese government can still access it, right? So this is what the EU, it's actually Ireland's Data Protection Commission, is complaining about. Data being transferred, data collected by Facebook being transferred off of European servers into the U.S. Obviously about European citizens.
It's so I don't understand how that works when it comes to edge caching and network optimization. I mean, if I'm a European citizen accessing, my Gmail account from Oregon, does that mean that I only can access my Gmail if it's stored in somewhere in the EU, in which case I'm dealing with the latency of constantly going back to that. It just seems like it runs against the way in which the internet was, designed and the way in which performance works.
Right. If I email somebody in the EU, isn't the entire conversation stored in both places?
Right. Yeah. Only one person can see the conversation at a time because, they're in different places.
Bizarre.
The emails shall never meet in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess the problem is we have a global internet and it doesn't respect national boundaries, but nations want it to.
Imagine that.
And I don't know who wins on that one. Do you have you are on T2, which was created by former Twitter folks, T2.social. It's very much like Twitter. You're on Blue Sky, Chris.
Yeah.
You're on Mastodon. Do you have a dog in this hunt, or are you just watching?
I mean, in the sense that the dream of the original distributed social web, is still alive. And I now is more than we've had an opportunity, I think, in most of internet history to perhaps, right the wrong of the centralized social platforms.
Yes.
And so, as far as it goes, one, I want to be seeing how these platforms are showing up and competing and how they're innovating and changing things. But then also, if I'm going to be providing guidance or input to any of the folks who are working on the underlying protocols for interoperability, we do have to sort of think about what different verbs, do in different contexts and what certain behaviors are allowed in some context or another, and what happens when it comes to interoperability between them. So
we do have an advantage.
So
Twitter has kind of led the way. I mean, we know what a working social network looks like. And so all of these look somewhat like
we know what it looks like from
Twitter.
From centralized,
yes. Yeah.
They look like it, and you're and Google Plus was, very similar. You have a text box and you type something or you add some attachments and then it goes into a feed, and that's kind of the whole model. But in this new world, you should be able to follow people that are on different networks and on different platforms that are run by different people. And
are you sad
there are different policies?
Are you sad that Plus didn't take off?
No. I think it's useful just to state for the record that Google Plus was successful for Google. It was not successful for users of the network per se, but, having, being the person that designed the Google profile, there were 43 different representations across Google when I got there, where you could have a different profile photo and a different name. And, there are some benefits to sharding your identity in that way. But when it comes to interacting with one company, it's not like you want to have 15 different Apple accounts or, 15 different YouTube. I mean, maybe you do for business purposes, but as far as it goes, when you change your name because you got married, you want it to be propagated across all the places that's necessary with one company. And so what Google Plus did was it provided identity as a backbone for all subsequent Google services to be built around those assumptions, which then gave you different capabilities in things like Google Docs and Drive. So you could share something to someone and know that the right person had it. And from a business use case, you could then have people who work for a company and therefore have access to different services or data or information. And if they leave that company, that information can be revoked without them having to give up their full Google account. So anyways, in that sense, Plus was a success for Google's business goals. It just wasn't a consumer hit. Now, Google Photos, I will say, is largely a success. It drives a lot of the machine learning that Google does. And in fact, the product manager who's still working on that is the same product manager that was working on that with Google Plus. So it's kind of amazing to see, that some folks have really stayed with these products all the way through, even 10 years later.
I also think that Google Plus improved social networking generally because so many companies, especially Facebook, tried to copy some of the best features. Sure. And so even I think this week, Twitter said, "Oh, we're going to have you can have videos on Twitter that are 2 hours long,
2
or something
hours.
like that." Well, Google Plus had that in 2011.
Google Plus did have a lot of really good ideas. Absolutely. I think the timing was a little awkward, and the emphasis on desktop browsers was probably its Achilles heel. I remember during that year, that was when Zuckerberg had his famous kind of like hoodie lockdown, and everyone basically had to like stop using Facebook on their desktop laptops and switch over to mobile. And they realized how bad the experience was, which then allowed Facebook to build what essentially became their, mobile advertising juggernaut, which then of course Apple then, cut off their legs, with the app tracking transparency stuff. But nonetheless, I think if Google had really ironically, leaned into Android, they might have actually done much better by building into the OS. Actually, this is something that I don't think you guys have talked about, but, and I'm curious to see what happens when WWDC happens this year. But Apple has been slowly building a social network into the operating system for the last 2 or 3 years. And there is no antitrust concerns because there's no app. There's no kind of concept of, this is the thing that you could pull out from the platform. And yet that is how Apple is slowly eroding Facebook's, I think, position in the market. For example, if you go to Safari, there is a For You section or shared with you that comes from all the different people that have shared links to you via iMessage. In iMessage, there's a shared with you thing that shows you all the photos from different people. In the Photos app, there's stuff from your contacts. So very, very slowly, boil the frog type method, Apple is introducing social sharing functions as part of the operating system that is completely, it seems to me, being missed by the mainstream press and by analysts because there is no kind of app that you can point to and say, aha, that's the Apple social network.
You're exactly right. And if you look at Notes and if you look at Freeform, you basically share documents that you interact with people, and then those connections are persistent. So you go back to, I do it all the time with family members and colleagues and stuff like that, where you just go back to the space within those apps where you were interacting and interact again for a different purpose. And it's just you're just connected with all these products.
It's very strange. Like the contacts in the address book app in Mac OS and on the iPhone are the ways in which you manage those connections. But there's not like an explicit, add this person as a friend. You add them to your address book, and that is the action that you take to then connect with them.
And that was the vision of Google before and after Google Plus. But to circle back to your point about mobile and missing mobile, I mean, one of the ways in which Google Plus was light years ahead of everybody else was live streaming, right? They call it live streaming back then, but basically you could do a hangout and just basically be live streaming, and it would automatically be live on YouTube and then be stored on YouTube permanently. But it was desktop. And so if you look at how live streaming turned out to be a huge phenomenon, it was all on mobile.
That's right.
Mostly a mobile phenomenon. So if they had just been aggressive, like you said, about getting that live streaming capability and the group chat live streaming capability and rushed that to mobile, they would have just owned the future. That became the big deal. And they just missed it because they were only on the desktop.
Yeah. It was such a blind spot, and looking back, you can clearly see it, especially, everything that's happened with Instagram and Facebook and WhatsApp, all the parts were there. Google had all of it, but they were just so wedded to, again, and, if your business, is this huge, money volcano, thanks to search, you don't have the right incentives really to cut bait, from the past.
I argued years ago, AOL was Facebook before Facebook.
Sure.
Right. AOL was Twitter before Twitter. It could have been all those things, but it couldn't see it.
Yep.
Where do you stand on the quote tweet controversy? Any thoughts? Do we need a quote tweet on Mastodon?
Yes.
Okay. There you go.
We do.
That was simple. That was easy. That was fast.
And they're headed that way.
I would chime in and say that we don't need it, but it would be nice. I like it. You can. It's easy to sort of construct your own. And as the creator of the hashtag, you know that these these sort of workarounds can be very powerful. Like you just paste in the link to the original thing if you want to.
Yeah.
But I like quote tweets. It's easy. It's fun. It's like the people who follow me for my, theoretically, for my opinions, my take on things. It's easy to just take a tweet and then share my take on it. It feels good. It's also an ingrained behavior that a lot of people have. So I think it would be nice. I don't think it'll ever happen. I think the metaverse community.
No, I think Eugen has been open to it when he attended the Black Twitter Summit. He's been talking about that, and he also in the Black Twitter Summit we held, he saw the value of open search to a community to be able to find each other. So he's very open to those things. And I think there's some really interesting proposals on the Mastodon Git in terms of putting some limitations on it? Is it voluntary that you retweet it? Those kinds of questions are interesting to reconsider. But yeah, we need it.
I think like there's a question of enforcement and behavior and how to, conduct a space where you're emphasizing pro-social engagement. And there's, of course, negative things that are going to happen. I just don't think that like the medium, yes, there are aspects of the medium itself that can be used to inhibit bad behavior. But if you're cutting out a huge set of content that people are, familiar with and comfortable, using, and they can use that to actually build up other people's voices and provide distribution and attention. And you're like, well, let's just get rid of all of it because 20% of it is, nefarious, seems to ignore, like, again, where the control should be put. If someone is going to be, negative or mean, and these things absolutely happen, that to me seems like that should be at the level of the individual, and the person should be blocked, or they should be censored, or something else.
Exactly. And this is another area where I wish people would copy Google Plus again, because so Google Plus had an awesome phase. There was like 3 years where it was just amazing. And then it sort of turned to crap like in the last few years. But there was one awesome thing that turned to crap in the last few years, which was that a single click would block, report, and remove a comment.
Yes.
That was just so powerful. Just boom, and you just nuke somebody, and their comment is gone forever. They're reported and they're blocked. If every social network had that, there would be no trolling. There would be no hate speech. It would be amazing.
Oh, you're advocating for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
it's actually
it was so
on
good.
On this point, like, I don't know if you guys have seen or tried out like what Blue Sky now offers with their moderation lists. And I don't know exactly how they're going to work. It's very interesting that everything on Blue Sky is public, including who you block and those interactions. But as a decentralized platform, for better or worse, you do need to embrace some aspects of transparency in order for the system to function in a decentralized way. And so now you have the ability to subscribe to block lists. And, I think the easiest way to understand these block lists on Blue Sky is just to think about an ad blocker. If you have an ad blocker that allows you to subscribe to block lists, then you can have multiple different sources and different perspectives on the things that you want to remove or get rid of on the internet, whether those are cookie banners or ads themselves, or, there's even some ad block lists that allow you to allow some ads in that you might consider to be, positive, or that you want to support, the producers of different websites or whatever. In a similar way, this is going to bring that type of capability to the internet and then to crowdsource collaboration on those types of lists.
This is interesting. So have people created mute lists? This is Blue Sky. Have people created mute lists that I would have to know what it was, I guess, and then I could join
Let me see if I can find one.
And your subscription to it is public.
Yeah. But I haven't muted any accounts, nor have I blocked any accounts. Oh, wait a minute. I did block one account. I don't know why, but but I haven't had much occasion to block. Blue Sky. My only complaint about Blue Sky is it's kind of silly right now, because I think people giddy. Having left Twitter, they're just giddy, and they're so happy that they can post pictures of Alf that they just go crazy. But it's settling down a little bit. I just saw a discussion on Blue Sky of race and health threads. I don't understand the health thread thing. It's accidental, right?
Yeah.
Let me take a little break. I want to talk more about this, but I need to take a break. Chris Messina is here, and what a great opportunity to have one of the legendary creators of all that is good and wonderful in the universe with us, including the hashtag and a lot of I didn't realize you'd worked on Activity Stream. I guess I knew that way back in the day.
It was way back then. Yeah. We kind of took a hiatus.
Supporter of open web standards. We like that. Also, Mike Elgin, my friend from points southeast, north, and west, astronomad.net.
Yep.
Great to have you. He's in the Veneto right now.
Great to be here.
So
that's
exciting.
Right. Your ancestral homeland.
My homeland. My people. I would live in Rome if I could. I would just move there. I would just go. That'd be it. Goodbye. Can't, but I would.
Italy is
wonderful.
perfectly delightful.
Yeah.
Veneto is my favorite.
I'd like to
Italian
visit.
place.
Yeah, I don't think I've visited. I've been to Venice, of course, but not the rest of it.
It's unbelievable. It's as green as Ireland, and it's just rolling hills of vineyards. It's just heaven on earth.
Did they have flooding problems last week or no? Emilia Romagna did.
No.
Yeah.
But they have water everywhere. Everything's so green. There's like these big canals of rushing water, but it's well controlled. They've had problems in the past, but in modern times they've really controlled the water flow here.
Lovely. And of course, Jeff Jarvis, who is in New Jersey. That's all I'm going to say. Also,
I was going to be in Toronto today and not in the show. But
I'm sorry. What happened?
I just too much going on.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you're here. I bet you're glad you're here.
Stuck with me. Everybody else leaves you, but I'm always here, Leo. Bad penny. Can't get rid of me.
I try.
I know you do.
Buzzmachine.com. I've got something that'll chase you away, actually, and coming up in a little bit. But first, a word from ZipRecruiter. Whether you're starting a new business or growing one, I've learned this as a owner of a small business. If you want to be successful, you got to have the people, right? Businesses are made of people. And the better your people, the better your team, the better your business. That's where ZipRecruiter comes in. Right now, you could try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/twig. No matter how big or small your business, hiring the right person elevates it. Hiring the wrong person can bring it down. So if you're starting a new business, as small as a taco truck or as big as the next charity Save the World, you need ZipRecruiter, because ZipRecruiter has powerful matching technology that finds candidates for you for a wide range of roles. When you post on ZipRecruiter, we use it. That's how we most recently hired Viva. We needed somebody in our continuity department. Lisa gets up in the morning. She says, I'm going to post. She posts to ZipRecruiter, immediately goes to 100 plus job boards. So you're casting a very wide net. You can add tags that really help, grab applicants' attention. Things like remote, for if you're, allow remote working or training provided or urgent or whatever you want to help your job stand out. But as I said, ZipRecruiter adds to the value by going out and looking at all the resumes they have, more than 1 million current resumes on hand, and seeing if they can find people who meet your qualifications. If they do, they tell you about them. You can look at those people and then ask them to apply. And there's something magic happens when you ask somebody to apply. They're thrilled. They're honored. They're touched. They respond. They come to the interviews. It's hard to hire these days, but ZipRecruiter is the best way to do it, the easiest way to do it. And I'll tell you, Lisa got up in the morning. We posted the job for Viva, but within an hour, she started to get great candidates. In fact, that was the hard thing. We had so many great candidates. We had to choose one. That's beautiful. That's a nice position to be in. Let ZipRecruiter fill all your roles with the right candidates. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. See for yourself. We've got a great address for you that'll get you a chance to try it for free. ZipRecruiter.com/twig. That's ZipRecruiter.com/TWIG. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. We use it. We love it. You should use it too. ZipRecruiter.com/twig. Already
dug into DeSantis for a minute. He was saying Disney is in such bad shape with their stock they couldn't afford to build that building anyway.
Oh, please! And
then he wants to talk about education, and they're bringing in Chris Rufo, major known intellectual, to talk about that. I turned back to him.
Already the TechCrunch reporting technical issues plague Ron DeSantis' presidential announcement on Twitter. You heard it happen here live. The product, which allows live streamed group voice chats, cut out quickly after going live at 3 p.m. The audio glitched in and out at times, only played reverb noises along with some distorted speech. As of 3:15, there were 580,000 listeners on the Twitter space. Update by 3:30, an alternative space with the live Ron DeSantis was up and running, although it only attracted a fraction of the initial user base. How many do you have in there right now, Jeff? It was down. It's about 147,000 last time I checked. He announced, of course, as he intended to, that he's running for president. I also saw Rupert Murdoch's response to this in the Daily Mirror. Oh. Ron Disaster, they called it.
That was quick.
Rupert's not a fan, I think. I don't know who he's a fan of, but not of Ron, I guess. And somebody on Blue Sky skeeted, right? Is it a skeet? It's a skeet.
Yes.
Skeet.
Yes.
Shit.
I think the CEO called it a post, but sure, you can call it a skeet.
Skeet.
Just for fun.
I wanted to call it a bleat. I wanted to call it a bleat. That would have been so much better. They got a lamb.
Yes.
Anyway, somebody bleated. This has to get Tucker Carlson really scared. because Tucker would routinely have
He's betting on the platform.
Multi-millions watching his show. If they can't handle 500,000 people, that's problematic.
Well, here's some context. So before Elon Musk fired everybody in November of 2022, Elon Musk himself did a space with 2.7 million people. In December, he did another one with 2.2 million.
Oh,
in May of this month, actually, the former Prime Minister of Pakistan did a space with, I guess only 65K, but there have been bigger spaces than this, far bigger.
Back in the day when people still worked there.
Yes, employees are good.
Yeah, he's had 6 months to really, firm up that infrastructure.
That's the wrong direction. That's wow. Okay. What were we?
How many people can True Social support? Like 20?
That's 25? A good question. It's running
It's
running on a forked Mastodon. It's probably pretty good.
It is.
We'll see. It might be more stable depending on how well they forked the code.
Probably don't have the money though to pay for it.
Yeah, the Washington Post, DeSantis presidential campaign kickoff on Twitter, plagued by technical issues.
This is not a good look for either DeSantis or
a lead story in New York Times. DeSantis announcement derailed by Twitter malfunction.
Not a good look.
Oh, no.
This is the Post. The Twitter space where he was set to announce came to a halt after roughly 20 glitch-plagued minutes filled with long stretches of silence and messages like details not available. The funniest thing was, and we heard a little bit of it, Elon muttering to himself about how it's not working. God, Elon, I would not want to be around.
Schadenfreude, thy name is sweet.
I know, I'm sorry. We shouldn't. The Daily
Mail in the UK said it's the biggest fail in campaign history.
Holy
Ron DeSantis' mock the shambolic Twitter room presidential announcement with Elon Musk that crashes 5 times and leaves users bamboozled.
It does seem like a strange decision to do it on Twitter, to be honest.
Yep.
But
I mean, like, he's filling the vacuum that Trump had previously, right? So had it gone well, it actually, I thought it had the potential to be very smart, because if Trump isn't there, but then DeSantis can kind of just, rise those folks up, and they're looking for the game that Twitter was while Trump was on the platform.
That's where the base is, or was. Yeah.
But if neither DeSantis nor Elon are very good at Twitter, then maybe that's not such a good campaign strategy.
I prepared a special story just for you, Jeff Jarvis. Today, the 140th birthday of the Brooklyn Bridge. Probably you don't know this, Chris, but for some reason, Jeff doesn't like bridges.
I'm bridge phobic. Yeah. I started trying to walk across. I lived in Brooklyn Heights. You'd think that I would have hung out there and written my novels there or something. I tried to start walking across it, and I said, I can see down. Nope.
You can. You can see.
Did you fly? Do you use airplanes?
Well, yeah, that's okay. I'm enclosed.
They fly. They can fly. Yeah. You would not like this video.
I can't.
You would not like this video on the New York Times website, an Unum interview with Ken Burns, which immediately shows the cracks in the bridge and the water beneath.
No.
I love the Brooklyn Bridge. It's one of the great landmarks of America. And I just want to celebrate its 140th birthday.
It's amazing. It's a wonderful, amazing thing. I've driven over it unhappily, but never going to walk over it.
New York was inching towards its new role as a world-class city, and the bridge helped put it there. You know what I just started? I'm really excited. Robert Caro's biography of Robert Moses.
Yeah, people love it.
Which is, I mean, look, I barely know who Robert Moses is.
He had just a huge impact on New York.
On New York, yeah, as a
and on all kinds of communities that he split up.
As a former New Yorker and so forth, I'm very interested.
Being dealt with.
Oh, interesting. Yep. But and Caro, I've read his LBJ biography. I know he's one of the great biographers, and everybody agrees this is the biography to beat all biographies. So I can't wait to read it.
Journalists love it. I've never actually read or listened to it. Are you listening to it? Or?
Yeah, I'm listening to it. So far, it's a lot of anecdotes, which I like. It brings it to life, right? Stories about what happened. FCC commissioner nominee. We've got a new one. The White House has nominated veteran government attorney Anna Gomez. Remember, of course, for a long time, the FCC is still undermanned because for a long time, Gigi Sohn, who was Biden's first FCC nominee, was blocked Since late 2021, Sohn finally pulled herself from consideration last month. She was a big supporter of net neutrality, one of the people we really wanted to get in there, but telecom lobbyists did not want her in there. So Biden has nominated Anna Gomez. Don't know what her opinion is of net neutrality. I hope she's a supporter thereof. At least she didn't come from the private sector. She was previously a deputy administrator for the National Telecommunications and Information Administration, has worked for the FCC for 12 years. He also nominated...
Carr is back.
I'm surprised he nominated Brendan Carr. I
am too. Jeez.
Because Carr is really one of the most reactionary FCC commissioners.
Yes.
And Democrat Jeffrey Starks.
So. Well, let's not forget now, everybody on both sides of the platform hate the internet, so that's fine.
I think probably Carr is a gift to the Republicans, hoping that they will finally let him fill the open Democratic seat, but I don't know. What else?
Oh, they're laughing about DeSantis on MSNBC right now.
Yeah.
Much hilarity.
Yeah. It is schadenfreude, and I think that's probably. I apologize. Oh, what? we had Kathy Gellis on Sunday on Twit because, of course, she wrote 2 amicus briefs that were critical in the Supreme Court's decisions from last week. She won one and lost one. She lost the fair use case, the Andy Warhol Foundation being sued by a photographer for a print that Andy Warhol made of a picture the photographer made. Kathy's point, which so far no one else has picked up on, but I thought was very interesting, was this was kind of suing an intermediary. The analogy I made is, Michael Jackson did a song called Bad. Weird Al made a song called Fat. If I were to play Fat, it would be as if I played Fat on Twit and the Michael Jackson estate sued me for playing the parody. And that's in effect what happened here. She says the Supreme Court got it completely wrong and undermined fair use, which is too bad.
Which is an issue for AI, too, a big issue for generative AI.
Absolutely right.
Because before, the copyright stuff was going against copyright when it came to AI, and this reverses it in a way that I think could be very damaging.
But
it also has to be said that Weird Al always got permission from the
he did, and that's why it's not a perfect. It's not a perfect analogy. It'd be better to get something where somebody did a fair use, legal parody of something, and then I played the parody but got sued by the originals.
The other weird thing about this is that the magazine had previously gotten permission to use the photograph.
That's right.
Paid $400, but then this was a different use. And this is the whole issue. So and it's the problem with this sort of thing also is that clearly Andy Warhol was using that specific photograph, clearly, but there's a line there that where an artist can use a photograph to the point where it's unrecognizable. And then how do you, so are judges going to be deciding where that line is with AI, for example, where they're going to look at something and say, oh yeah, I can tell that that's using this artist's style. So we're going to rule because I, the judge, have decided that it reminds me of the style. Like it just seems unadjudicatable, I guess, is the thing that
to your point, Jeff. I had thought the courts would uphold the right of AI to create new creations from stuff that they had learned from existing artists. I thought that was a clear use of transformative use of the work and would easily be supported by the courts. Now I don't know.
Well, but this of course was not a case about AI. This was a case about something different. And things aren't recorded, right? They're learned from.
That's right.
And the actual work is discarded in a sense, out of memory. So that may make a difference. I don't know, Chris. I'm curious to hear your perspective on this. I see you nodding.
Yeah, I was, as you were thinking about this or describing it, it occurred to me that as we try to figure out what to do with like static media. And media that, of course, exists, let's say you frame it, you put it up on a wall, or you print a bunch of magazine covers of something that is static. Fair use in that context, and I believe in this case, was about whether or not the original work has been essentially usurped or replaced with something that is more or less equivalent by a different artist who then makes money or commercializes that reuse. So in other words, the original photograph could have been used for I believe this was a 20-year anniversary.
Yeah.
Something, whether it was about Prince or whether it was about the photography, I don't know.
It was about Prince. Yeah.
The photo was of Prince. I don't know if it was, anyways, whatever the case was.
It was an article about Prince. Yeah.
I believe that the Supreme Court was saying, well, essentially the fair use doctrine really applies to things that are in sort of a different commercial context. You can take things and editorialize them. You can take things and talk about them. You can take things and create a derivative work that is substantially transformed. And of course, the substantially part is of question. But in the commercial context, I think, Leo, what you were saying, where you would be sued by the original copyright owner is because you are essentially choosing to use the derivative work instead of the original, although the thing that you paid for is essentially like a copy or a replacement of the original.
Right.
So you're paying for a facsimile as opposed to the original, and therefore the person who created the original should get
compensation
paid for that.
Right.
In the case of AI artwork and going forward, AI work in general, it begs the question, if you can simply conjure up a new image every time someone looks at something, what is the nature of copyright? Are images, do they need to be copyrighted? Essentially, like you can buy stills from a film, for example, right? Put on your wall, it's the celluloid or whatever. In the future, if most graphics or images are to be generated on the fly by AI and produced based on a training model, what is it that you're actually copywriting and what actually is being sold in the marketplace? So this is a somewhat very backwards kind of perspective. Now, granted, a lot of this static content is going to continue to be produced, and we will produce static images that we like, and then we want to pay for it and we want to buy. But in the case of artificial intelligence, if someone says, oh, that's a copyright infringement on my work, well, you could literally like roll the dice and just sort of generate a new image from the same training data that it is substantially transformed or different, such that copyright maybe doesn't apply in the same way. And I don't know how it applies to motion images, but that's a question.
This is so from SCOTUS blog. All agree that Warhol's artistic contribution is substantial, reflects an aesthetic intention not shared by the photographer Goldsmith. But for Sotomayor, who wrote the majority decision, the only relevant feature of Warhol's use is that it is a commercial licensing of an image created by Warhol based on Goldsmith's work for a fee. It was the commercial aspect of it. So if, for instance, let's say I buy an AI-generated work of art that looks very much like Thomas Kincaid's paintings, Master of Light.
Ooh, why would
and then then Thomas Kincaid for only example and then Thomas Kincaid sues me saying, and this is the Supreme Court's issue, instead of buying an original from Thomas Kincaid, I bought an AI version of it. And that as to the use of the magazine in the magazine at issue here, though Sotomayor is clear, Goldsmith's works, a celebrity photograph, commonly used to accompany stories about the celebrity, often in magazines. Her point of view is that instead of paying the photographer for the original image, they used the derivative image.
But they didn't want
and
the
that
original
it took money away from the photographer.
It's like a knockoff bag.
It's like a knockoff
bag.
And so in the AI example, if I use an AI that was derivative of Kincaid, according to this judgment, could legitimately go after me for commercial use of a painting created by an AI, but derivative of his.
I don't know that you could. I mean, you could show similarity, but I don't know if you.
It'd have to look an awful lot like his, right?
Well, but again, that's human perception,
right?
As opposed to the actual thing, and the way in which these data sets are trained. It actually is is an amalgamation of, let's say, thousands of different types of art. And so then how do you then is it fractional infringement?
Yeah. So I have to pay $10 to Kincaid.
Right.
And $5.
Well, that's what news publishers are begging for, is pay us for any use.
Right.
Leo, you raise a really interesting issue with where the EU is going on regulating AI, where the intermediary liability takes a whole new quantum leap, where whoever created the original structure becomes liable for anything ever done by anybody with that structure.
So if I drive my Tesla, or my Tesla drives into a house and kills somebody, Elon's responsible, or Elon's programmers are responsible.
Yes. And that also negates any open sourcing of it.
Right. Yeah, you can't open source.
Which is, yeah.
How does that work for guns?
Oh, interesting. Oh, no, we're not going to go there.
Video games
We're not
kill
gonna go there.
people, guns don't.
Right. That's right. Sorry.
Get it straight here, Chris.
I know. My apologies.
The other Supreme Court case, and actually it was both cases, was Gonzalez versus Google and Twitter versus Tamna. The court rolled them up into one and said, because we have decided Tamna, we don't have to decide Gonzalez. We don't have to decide Google because, it's the same case, which it kind of was. Remember, though, in the oral arguments for Gonzalez versus Google, the Gonzalez attorney was saying YouTube was actually responsible because their algorithm published, this ISIS video and created thumbnails, and that made them a publisher of the content. The good news is, while nobody mentioned Section 230, it didn't even get to that point. Most of the decision was on a detailed ruling on Tamna was written by Clarence Thomas, who actually, first of all, the justices voted 9-0 in favor of Twitter. So it's unanimous. And Clarence Thomas actually kind of surprised everybody, surprised me for sure, by writing a very well thought out piece. But it doesn't mention 230. What it really came down to is, what is aiding and abetting, and can Twitter be considered aiding it, because they were going after them on the terrorists, aiding and abetting of terrorists.
Well, I believe the thing was that they were essentially asserting that Twitter was aiding and abetting all terrorists or jihadist activity as a result of publishing or allowing this content to be published.
Exactly.
Right.
And Thomas was very clear that historically aiding and abetting did not go that far. He says, for example, assume that any assistance of any kind were sufficient to create liability. If that were the case, anyone who passively watched a robbery could be said to commit aiding and abetting by failing to call the police. Yet our legal system generally does not impose liability for mere omissions, inactions, or nonfeasance. He said, for these reasons, courts have long recognized the need to cabin aiding and abetting liability to cases of truly culpable conduct. And as a result, Twitter not truly culpable. It did not aid and abet, and 9-0 that Twitter is not responsible. This completely
230 is safe for now.
Well, it's safe only in the sense that they didn't say anything about 230. Yeah. Although Mike Masnick makes a very good point in Tech Dirt, saying Thomas actually gave, in his whole discussion of aiding and abetting, a very good reason for why 230 exists in the first place. So Kathy's opinion was, the only benefit to 230 in this, it really does not impact 230, but the only benefit might be that now here's a precedent that could be used to support 230 down the road. You see, we need this because we need to protect people in a case like this. You don't hold a platform liable for the speech of its users. So it was not a victory for 230, but it wasn't bad. It didn't hurt 230. It was a reprieve. And Kathy said, and of course she's been on the show many times. She's very smart. She wrote the amicus brief for this case. She said it is possible that what Thomas said that could be used in further cases to protect 230. So there may be some value to that. I just wanted to give you a follow up on that. Do watch, if you get a chance, watch the Twit episode from last Sunday. It was a really good discussion. And we had Harry McCracken and Kathy Gellis in studio, Amanda Silberling from TechCrunch. But I really grilled Kathy on both, all three of these cases, really.
And she could answer.
She's great. She's really great. So one win, one loss for her. She's 1-2 in the Supreme Court. Should I go here? The AI novel writing tool that everyone hates is better than I expected, writes Addie Robertson in The Verge. This is actually what you were talking about, Chris Messina, because Addie says it would help. It wasn't that Addie had writer's block. I don't know. Is Addie a guy or a woman? I don't know. They have written 150,000 words of unpublished fiction last year alone. So writer's block wasn't the issue. but it was very helpful in generating a novella, The Electric Sea. Adi says, The Electric Sea was produced with heavy human guidance, but every final line was created by hitting a generate button. The story is published on Tumblr. I couldn't bring myself to read it. But
Stephen Marche also wrote one called The Death of an Author, which the Times wrote about this process, which is really interesting.
Yeah. So the generative fiction tool is called Pseudo-Write. It's well named. I like the name. SUDO, Pseudo-Write. Yeah. It's called Story Engine. And it can write a full novel in a few days with a little help from a human. Have you played with this, anybody? Have you written your
I haven't played with it, but I think that, as is always the case with AI, the places where AI generated content is applicable, press releases, SEO, page
mediocre
so
hack writing, in other words.
Yes. Exactly. I mean, there's a lot. Most super popular fiction is garbage, and it's fantasy world stuff.
Right.
I read recently about this Mormon author who's nobody's heard of, who made $55 million last year. He's got this disorder where he just must write all the time.
You're talking about Brandon Sanderson.
Stephen King?
No, Brandon Sanderson.
No, Stephen King. No. Stephen King is
Brandon is amazing, and that article was such a hit piece on him. It was really kind of unfair. Nevertheless, he says he can't not write. He just spews it out. He very rarely edits what he writes.
I want that disease. But anyway,
by the way,
the point is that
I tried to read some of his stuff because I thought, wow, people have...
It's awful.
It's terrible.
He can't write.
People
writer.
laud him as a world builder, and I'm very interested in world building fiction. But the writing is so god awful, I couldn't get past the first paragraph.
Yeah. But so much romance fiction you can buy on Amazon. So much of this just sort of like fantasy world stuff is just bad writing, and really AI should be writing it. It's just doesn't require an entire functioning human
prompt,
being.
I think this is actually kind of impressive. Here's the prompt Addy gave this program. Introduce Jack hacking at his computer. Focus on vivid descriptions of Jack's squalid apartment and his moral conflict and cynicism. Jack pulls off a corporate espionage job by navigating a virtual world. He sends the information to his client. There's more. Jack's moral conflict as he began hacking to expose secrets in a corporate-controlled society, but is ending up selling them to the highest bidder in order to finance his continued life as a hacker. Use made-up brand names, fictional corporate names. Use detailed literary descriptions of futuristic hacking. Focus on emotion and character traits. That's a nice prompt. This is the first paragraph generated for that. Jack sat hunched over his computer, fingers flying across the grimy keys like deranged spiders. I like that.
It's good.
That's good. The glow of the screen cast a sickly pallor, cliche, on his gaunt face, double cliche, highlighting the shadows between his eyes. You've got a hat trick. His apartment was a squalid den of decay, a mausoleum to forgotten dreams and lost hopes. Tangled wires and discarded cliches. Tangled wires and discarded tech littered the floor, while mold crept up the wall like black veins. That's not bad. Quite a few little cliche phrases in there.
Yeah.
Come on.
And I wish Sean Penn would use ChatGPT to write his books. His most recent book in 2018 called Bob Honey Who Just Does Stuff was called by The Guardian repellent and stupid. And the New York Times called it a book-shaped object. He should be using ChatGPT.
Who's this? Nicolas Cage?
Sean Penn.
Oh, Sean Penn. I knew it was a bad actor.
Awful writer.
Sean
horrible.
Penn writing novels. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
it's a book-shaped.
Terrible. Book-shaped object.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Oh God, I wish I'd thought of that.
Repellent and stupid on so many levels, says The Guardian.
Wow, his face.
Beware the Brits, man. Beware the Brits.
Now I want to read it. I mean, there is such a thing as so bad that it's fun.
Who does the audiobook? He reads it. That's a winner.
Should I play a little bit from Audible of this book?
Oh, please do.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll stumble upon a good paragraph.
It'll be as good as an Elon Musk Twitter space, at least.
Okay, Bob Honey. It shouldn't be too hard to find a book named Bob Honey who doesn't do.
Who just
do stuff. It's not on Audible. But maybe the sequel,
sad.
Bob Honey Sings Jimmy Crack Corn, is.
What?
This was an earlier attempt by Sean Penn. Let's listen in.
The search of the retirement home on the night of Spurley Coltier's demise found Bob's bed magnificently made, with tucks and folds that'd bring a Marine Corps drill instructor to drool in delight. Atop its trampoline-tight duvet, an envelope fat with cash addressed to the local ASPCA.
Now, I think an AI could have written that.
Oh yeah, fat with cash. Yeah, cliches.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, let me try an idea out on you. If I had a machine, and I've said this in the show before, but if I had a machine that had tracked all of the relationships of these unbelievable number of words, come up with 3 trillion tokens, I'd want to query that database to see about our biases and connections and the predictions. It's not about creating more of the same. It's about what have we already produced and what does it tell us? Is there anything going on in that vein?
Well, like one of the things that I like to think about is just negative space as a sort of concept to allow you to sort of understand that what lives in the positive space. And this is something that Alan Watts has talked about with a grid of words. You imagine sort of graph paper with lots of dots, and it goes on for miles and miles. And each of those dots is a word. It's a concept. It's something that humans know, but all the negative space, all the non-dot area also are filled with concepts. They just don't have labels that humans have, engineered or developed. Right. So to what you're talking about, there probably is a lot of great wisdom found in these hallucinations that people are so afraid of because they're creating adjacencies that are unexpected, that are oblique. And I feel like
books you should write. Yes,
precisely. Right. Because everything else has sort of been done. Right. And it's following like these cliches that you mentioned at one time were not cliches, trending topics and hashtags on Twitter at one point did not exist. There weren't these words smushed together into a new concept that is identifying something in human experience. And so that aspect of generativity, I think absolutely could be something that could be developed. I haven't seen anything specifically along those lines. However, I am starting to see people kind of mash together either different prompts or to, like even Adobe with what they're doing with Firefly has started to put out products that will allow you to do different types of in painting or scene changing. Or, for example, there's this object, I want to replace it with some other object in the space.
Adobe
that fits into
just
the lighting.
released a Photoshop brush to do exactly that based on.
Exactly.
Have you seen Drag Your Gan?
Firefly.
Oh, it's so good.
What's Drag Your Gan?
Go to line 61, Leo.
But before we do that, how about a little palate cleanser, some Sean Penn reading from Bob Honey, who just do stuff.
The America Bob drove from Woodview to New Orleans was not that one of lore, not the one he'd known in his earliest cross-continental automotive excursions, not the one of pay-later gas stations, vintage diners, and two-lane roads. Only trains remained a spirit refuge to modernity's craven trumpery.
Whoa.
Oh, my.
Wait a minute. Whoa.
Low ball.
I think that's a sentence no one's ever written before. I mean,
I don't think it's had
There were few remaining.
No cliches.
it's not a cliche. We could say that much.
No, it's not.
What line 79 you said?
61.
61. Let's go to line 61.
It's pretty amazing.
Oh,
Do you see this, Chris?
Farhad, you ain't seen nothing yet. Okay, this is Drag Your Gan.
Because Farhad was worried about photoshopping. Now it's going to be so easy. Everybody's going to fake everything. We won't know what's real.
Interactive, point-based manipulation on the generative image manifold. This is from the Max Planck Institute.
Comes up with the subjects for these things? They're completely inscrutable.
This is a presentation at SIGGRAPH this year. So what am I supposed to
go down? There's videos.
Oh, there's video. Should I watch this one?
The video.
Main demo.
Yeah, it's wild.
Accelerated. I don't know if there's audio, but I'll play it. Okay, let's see. Here we go. Okay, they're taking a dog and they're stretching it.
The mouth is amazing.
They could just change things and make things smile.
Well, and it presumes
the
things.
dog
Right? It
sit
opens the mouth
down.
and it knows where the teeth are.
Right.
Yeah.
So it basically takes a 2-dimensional image, and then you find a point in that image of some significant, sort of like key points, or in video where keyframes.
Like keyframes. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So you're doing more or less the same thing, but with a two-dimensional image, and what you would used to do is sort of like stretch. You remember, I'm going to date myself, like Kai's Power Goo or whatever.
Yeah, Kai's Power Goo.
Right.
Except that just smeared stuff. It was like finger painting.
That's what I'm saying. So imagine, 20, 30 years forward, now instead of just smearing it, and dragging the pixels, now you actually change the content of the image based on its understanding of the subject of the image.
In that example just now, there was a picture of a woman with her mouth closed, and it made her a smile, and it produced teeth for her.
It's probably not her teeth, right? It doesn't know what her teeth look like. It's some GAN teeth.
Now the question is, could this be copyrightable, and what are you even copywriting?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Like this is where that Supreme Court case is sort of you could do this in Warhol and sort of go between 15 different iterations, and none of it's even worth copywriting because it's sort of already in the model.
Imagine Warhol with this tool.
Well,
what he could do to Jackie Onassis.
The Warhol version of the Prince photo was many versions.
That's true.
That's true.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so is drag GAN? Obviously it's in the lab. Will they release this at any point? That's pretty cool.
If the paper's out there, these techniques become
two main components featuring one, a feature-based motion supervision that drives the handle point to move towards the target position, and two, a new point tracking approach that leverages, and this is the key, the discriminative GAN features, generative adversarial network, to keep
that sounds like something that might kill you.
They keep localizing the position and handle points.
That's the technology behind deepfakes.
It's Sean Penn's next novel.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So GAN is not the same as a large language model. These are two different ways to take data and create something, some AI, capability.
But you could imagine, stay with that for a minute, Leo. You could imagine a language model writing something, and then it provides sliders.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Just go 10% more this, 5% less that.
Microsoft talked about that actually at Build this week. They already have something sort of like that. So does Google Bard. Remember the Bard demonstration at Google I/O where you decided to take the complaint letter and make it nasty? Microsoft sort of has that now in Bing Chat. You can choose different styles. But they really, at the keynote, described the fact that it could be a slider, that you could have an infinite scale, and you could turn it up and down until you got something you liked. That's probably just
the
more
thing that's really interesting about
expensive.
This conversation too, right, is to think about it from the flip side of the reverse. Right? Like we're sort of talking about this from the authorship perspective, someone who's writing something, but actually, especially with, Facebook has, or Meta released something this week, with their translation services.
1,000 languages.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And many languages that actually don't have a lot of recorded examples, to train on. Now, imagine this from the receiver's end. I think this is one of the things that's, again, hard. Like, we kind of exist, again, those of us on this podcast kind of are in the positive space. We see kind of, interactions, we use computers in certain ways, but there's a lot of people who don't have access to computers, who don't speak the language that computers are written, in, or the interface is written in. What some of this allows software to do is to adapt to the user and to the user's needs or preferences in a way that previously used to be very, very difficult. Now, one of the things that you guys had talked about earlier was about how, Microsoft and maybe Windows 12 or something is going to have kind of AI built in, and it's going to be part of the experience. But one of the things that I think is actually going to hold back Windows in particular, compared to the Mac, and especially I believe on Linux, although I don't know this, I'm completely ignorant about this on Linux, is the degree to which Apple has invested in assistive technologies over the years. In other words, you can turn on voice controls where the Siri essentially will tell you how you're interacting with a computer. There are ways where you can use assistive touch and things like that, both on your iPhone or your Mac. All of those things that allows computers to become more accessible to more people are the very same tools and scaffolding and structures that AI will be able to use to then manipulate your environment. So for example, there's a product called rewind.ai. And what they do is they record everything that goes on your screen. And the idea is to augment your memory by seeing everything that you have seen with your eyes and capturing video recordings of those things. Now, if they're also able to inventory and index all of the interfaces and buttons that appear on the screen, then they can see the actions that you could have or would have taken. And then the AI can learn to take the actions that you might have taken. So there's a lot of this that exists in browser automation and tools like that. But if you're able to just use common language to tell the computer what you want it to do, and it observes you doing it for 1 or 2 times and then can emulate what you've done, now you're opening up, again, accessibility to a whole new range of applications and use cases. So I don't know, again, how much Microsoft has invested in accessibility of its platform. I don't know how much Linux has either, but I know this is something that Apple has, taken pride in and has done a lot of the instrumentation for years.
Microsoft is arguably ahead of Apple in accessibility. They've really put a lot of energy and effort into it. I don't know if it will benefit them in the same way, because I don't know if it's with the same kind of point of view, but they have, I've met their accessibility ombudsman, and many of their ads feature accessibility. They made a controller for their Xbox for people with mobility issues, things like that. They're very good at that.
Hey, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So as long as that exists,
Yeah. Meta did something interesting to make this, I thought. It turns out that there are many recordings of the Bible. So they trained on 2 new data sets, one that contains audio recordings of the New Testament and then the corresponding text in 1,107 languages. Another contained unlabeled New Testament audio recordings in 3,809 languages. They then matched it up, because that's one of the ways you train, is match the text to the speech. And they were able to create a model that can not only speak 1,000 languages, but recognize more than 4,000. There are only, I should point out, only 7,000 languages it's estimated in the world. So that's a pretty good subset of the world's languages. Pretty impressive.
That's remarkable.
Yeah.
Well, let me check and see if Ron's still talking. No.
You want to hear something crazy, Leo?
Yeah.
So there are approximately 1,000 languages. Probably around 100 of them are in Oaxaca alone.
I do know that. You mentioned that when we were there. Yeah. There are a lot of native languages, and the native languages, varied over time quite a bit. I guess because they lived in separated enclaves.
There's 65 or so recognized Zapotec languages just among the Zapotec ethnic group.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are those like dialects or are those actual languages?
Actual languages. So Zapotec is a language family. And so there are many types of Zapotec that are totally unintelligible to other Zapotec speakers.
Wow.
Yeah.
So as Umberto Eco once said, a dialect is a language without an army and navy.
That's good. That's good. I like that.
You mentioned Adobe. We were talking about their generator, their AI image generator, Firefly. It is now is going to be in Photoshop in the second half of 2023, and it will do some pretty amazing things. Here's some of the examples that Adobe offers for what it can do. I mean, this isn't GAN stretching, but it's getting there. Adding a car-shaped cloud, and a reflective puddle of water.
I literally used this, I believe, yesterday. So some of the work that I do currently is helping makers launch on Product Hunt, and that occasionally involves getting into Keynote or some other slide tool to basically produce their gallery. And one of the makers that I was working with needed an image depicting essentially a phone being dropped or lost. And so I first went to Unsplash, where fortunately the images are public domain. I grabbed that, I uploaded it to Firefly, and I was able to replace a beer can, which was for some reason dropping in water, with an iPhone simply by selecting the beer can and saying what I wanted. And it worked, and it literally took 30 seconds. So this stuff is real, and it's super helpful.
Yeah, incredible. When I read this morning, I went to see if my Adobe photography subscription, which I thought included for $10 a month Lightroom and Photoshop, still included Photoshop. It didn't. It took Photoshop out. So I canceled it. This is pretty impressive. Firefly, I can't remember where Firefly's models come from? I don't know who is it. I don't know who it is.
That's a great question.
When it's
I would think that Adobe would want to run and produce their own.
No, I think they acquired something.
No,
I don't know. I don't know. We should talk about the Pentagon explosion.
Speaking of Photoshop,
and Twitter, right?
And
it's true, right?
So
and blue checks. Yeah, this is all of it. We're bringing it all home.
It is all coming home. The final story. We'll all bring it all home. So the issue was, this is a fake photo. It's not clear whether it was generated by AI or just Photoshop. It doesn't really matter. Although most of the news stories I saw blamed AI for this.
Of course.
And really,
that's the narrative.
Folk devil of now, the tech folk devil.
Stock market, when this was tweeted by a phony blue checked account called Bloomberg Feed, not Bloomberg, the stock market tumbled. It recovered pretty quickly, I might add. In every case where it was tweeted or retweeted, it would credited Twitter sources.
Which should just be like a poop emoji.
It's got to be true. Yeah. Within an hour of it being circulated, government officials stepped in to clarify the tweets were not true. The Arlington Fire and EMS tweeted there is no explosion or incident taking place at or near the Pentagon. So don't believe it.
Blue check accounts that said that? Because, I mean, can you really trust them if they're not paying $8 a month?
Dozens of verified accounts on Twitter with large followings spread this photograph. So who's to blame here?
It was in, when I first saw about it, the story I saw was fake photo bought it up.
Right.
It was known that it was fake.
It's true. Yeah. By the time you got
Bellingcat, thank God for Bellingcat. Nick Waters tweeted, there are a few signs that make it an AI image, including that the fence melds into the crowd barriers. Yeah, this is kind of AI looking here.
And Musk hates Bellingcat, and so we'll never learn that on Twitter.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So maybe it is. I mean, what does it matter if it's a Photoshop or AI generated? Yeah. You certainly could do it with Photoshop.
It doesn't matter.
There'll be congressional hearings if it's AI generated.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. That's the difference. There's another story that the U-Haul that crashed into a gate near the White House. There were a bunch of blue checked, Twitter blue accounts that said that it was a FBI psyop, right? Spreading
Lord.
that sort of so Twitter, so quote unquote verified accounts on Twitter are becoming a major source of disinformation, and so we have this reflex to sort of give credence to anything with a blue check, even though we know that nowadays you just pay for it. So this is one of the themes.
But look at the headline in the New York Times. Now this is the headline, but so I'm not going to blame it's the story author Andrew Ross Sorkin, but an AI generated spoof rattles the markets. That's not the lead that it's AI generated.
Yeah, that's not the story. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It's really the story is Twitter.
It could also be an archive photo. They could have taken a 9/11 photo and put it up there. People would have been fooled for 10 minutes.
It may have been the first time an AI-generated image moved the market, according to Bloomberg.
Jeez.
It's not about the AI. It's about
We just
Twitter.
didn't know that the other ones were AI.
Yeah, right.
Before. Jeff, what do you think about like the way in which the coverage, not in this New York Times article apparently, but when people are talking about verified accounts on Twitter, it feels like that language now is misleading, right? Isn't it just sort of like subscribers to Twitter Blue?
Yeah, subscribers.
Like, and the language of verification gives them too much credence. And the fact that the media seems to have not caught up to the fact that there is no real verification except that someone has a credit card number.
Like subscribers. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Yeah. I've been trying to get since I'm at the master of the hashtag. One of the great frustrations in life is you try to get one to take on, and of course it doesn't because you can't do it. So the one I wanted was $8 schmuck.
Nice. Well, you can keep flogging it, and maybe it'll
hashtag
Twitter anymore.
Hashtag $8 schmuck. Now you got something.
Well, here's a quick story. So in the debt ceiling fights of years ago, I said, I got angry. I had too much wine, and I got angry at Washington in general. And I just said, "Oh, F you, Washington," but spelling it out. Get your act together and just get this over with. I'm sick of it. Of course, I was wrong to blame all of Washington. It was one party, but we'll stipulate.
You captured a sentiment.
I did.
You were expressing. You were speaking for the people.
So I said it, and then somebody said, "You idiot, that's a hashtag." I said, "Of course it is.
Of course it is."
So FU Washington, spelled out, became a hashtag. I ended up on CBS News with it. It became huge. It was also the first, Reuters did research. It was the first reference with Occupy Wall Street and FU Washington. It was the first use of Occupy Wall Street in a tweet.
Wow.
My little bit of infamy there, since I'm at before the god of the hashtag.
Here we go.
You did it right, you know?
Reactions now coming in to the failed Spaces launch of Ron DeSantis' presidential campaign. Daniel Jalkut, our good friend on Mastodon. The last two things Elon Musk tried to launch blew up in about 30 seconds.
There's a lot of jokes, a lot of those.
Thank you very much. Boom. Twitter Spaces Total Landscaping from Andrew Fowler on Blue Sky. Good. That's good. And also on Blue Sky in space, no one can hear you launch a presidential campaign from Brian Fowler.
He droned on for an hour. An hour.
Yeah, I don't think he's got his finger on the pulse of America. God, I hope he doesn't. Anyway, let's take a little break. We've got more. We'll wrap it up pretty quick, actually. We'll get your picks of the week. We don't want to keep Chris here too long because we want him to come back. Don't want him to hate it. Our show today brought to you by my email client. Now, for a long time, I've said, if you really care about email, why are you using a free service for your email? A free service means you are the product, not the customer. And so many businesses, and I used to on the radio show got calls from people all the time saying, my son just the other day said, I can't get any email and I can't get anybody to get more space on my Gmail. I said, son, you haven't been listening to your father. Listen to your father. If you care about email, you need to pay for a service. And frankly, you need to pay for the best service, Fastmail. I've been using Fastmail for more than a decade. This is email from people who care about your privacy, people who care about email to the point where they're a leader in email. They launched many initiatives and internet standards. With Fastmail, I get DKIM and all of the authentication protocols on any domain I choose. I can bring my domains to Fastmail. I have so many email addresses now. Email from Fastmail is great. You have a webmail interface if you wish, but it's real IMAP, so you can use any client with it. You also can use their, in fact, I've given up on iOS and Android clients. I just use the Fastmail mobile client, which is fantastic. Quick settings. From the quick settings menu, you can choose a new theme. You can switch between light and dark, or as Jeff likes to do it, you could switch to light. You could change your text size without leaving the Fastmail screen. So if you're like me, old, and have a hard time reading tiny print, you can make it bigger quickly. Quick settings is great. You also can do something I think really important. With Bitwarden or 1Password, you can generate a new masked email address, which is fantastic. So that it's not only are you creating a password unique to every site or application, you can create an email address unique to every site or application. It integrates with Bitwarden and 1Password, so that's a kind of double security. You can, with the Fastmail app, send, snooze. You've got folders and labels. So if you like Gmail's label style, you can do that. If you like folders, you can do that. You can do both. Really fast search. For 20 years, Fastmail's been a leader in email privacy. I've been using them for more than 10 years. Replaced Gmail with Fastmail. Great spam filtering. You have complete control over it, too. You can write. I have a very elaborate spam sieve script that really is effective, but they also have default settings that work so well. At Fastmail, your data stays with you. For better productivity features and as little as $3 a month, you pay for free email with your privacy. Isn't it worth $3 a month to protect yourself? No ads, no spam. It's just the right way to go. You can download your old data, import it into your new Fastmail inbox, or continue to get mail from your old address so you don't miss a message. Fastmail's moving email forward with new internet standards and open source innovations that power many email services, not just their own. Don't get left behind by substandard email providers, and don't run your business on a free email provider. It's worth the money for Fastmail. I have my custom domains. They're all hosted by Fastmail, and all my email goes there. Reclaim your privacy, boost productivity with Fastmail. You can try it free right now for 30 days. Fastmail.com/twit. Fastmail is the best. You ask the experts, they'll all tell you that. Fastmail.com/twit. They use, in case you're interested, the open source Cyrus server. They've contributed back to that project many, many times. It's a very good IMAP server. Really does the job. Fastmail.com/twit. Thank you, Fastmail, for being my email service, for doing such a great job for me for all these years. I'm glad we could finally get them as an advertiser. We appreciate your support for Twig. You support Twig, too, when you use that address. You let them know you saw it here, right? Fastmail.com/twit. TWIT. Enough. Aunt Pruitt taking the day off. He'll be back next week. I'm hoping Stacy will be back next week. I think she had to do something, right? But we're so glad we could get Mike Elgin joining us, gastronomad.net. That's where he hangs his hat these days. And, of course, Elgin.com is Substack, and he's on Mastodon at Mac Elgin. And he is in Italy for a Gastronomad experience, the Prosecco.
That's right.
Experience. Oh, is this the Veneto right there? That's it. It's beautiful.
That's it. I'm probably a quarter of a mile from that very spot.
What did you have for dinner tonight, Mike?
Prosecco.
Pizza.
Oh,
pizza
and salad. Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of good, really amazing food. Venetian food is really something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They go to Morocco next, El Salvador. Oh, that'll be fun. That's right. Amira's
El Salvador is a brand new one. That's right. Amira was born in El Salvador, and she knows a lot of people. We've been there probably 30, 40 times in the last few years. And it's a really cool country that's a lot safer now than it used to be. And so now we're planning this experience, and it is going to be amazing. And that's in January. So if you live in Maine or New England or something like that and don't want to freeze your hiney off, it'll be in the high 70s in January in El Salvador.
Oh, and, nice.
Yeah.
Gastronomad.net. We went on the Oaxaca experience for the Day of the Dead last year, and it was incredible. Just
so much fun.
Mind-boggling. Actually, not last year. It's 2021
That's right.
now, right?
That's right.
Holy
cow. Year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Time
that was
flies.
a lot of fun.
Time flies. Also with us, the wonderful Chris Messina, the creator of the most important feature on Twitter, the hashtag, which is now migrated everywhere. I do blame you, though, for every time I travel now, all those Instagram influencers are out there hashtagging their food, their pictures, their hashtag lavender fields. Sigh. When you see young people say hashtag amazing, do you like go, yeah, I thought of that. I thought that up. That was me.
So, sometimes, it's such a weird thing to, have contributed something that becomes part of the culture such that people don't even have the concept that there was a time where the thing didn't exist. It's sort of like inventing like the dollar sign or something,
Yeah.
What was your reaction watching Black Lives Matter happen?
Oof.
Oh yeah, hashtag BLM. That's right. Yeah.
I mean that. Me too. Arab
Me
Spring.
too. Hashtag me too. Holy cow!
There's an element of like just like humbleness to it, right? And the reason why I got into working on the social web was because I wanted more people to be able to contribute their voices and to join the conversation. And the hashtag was a method by which people could do that with like what was becoming a new network. So I think there's some amount of pride, there's some amount of trepidation, there's some amount of kind of just awe that it's possible, especially depending on when you join these platforms and when you get involved with them, to really shape the outcomes and shape how they turn out. So I think, it's taken kind of a long time, I think, for me to get into the right, maybe like mental space about what it means to have contributed something like the hashtag to the internet and to culture. But to me, it also presents an opportunity to tell young people about what it means to contribute and build these places into the spaces that they actually want to be in, and they want other people to have a good time. And it doesn't just happen to you. Moderation on these platforms doesn't just kind of, it shouldn't be assumed that the way in which these things are has to be the way in which they persist.
And the responsibility we all have.
Yes.
When we encourage a fight, we're making the internet.
Yeah,
when we're
that's right.
recommending good stuff, we're making the internet.
Yeah. Where we put our attention is, where that oftentimes gets fed back to us. And it's more and more important, especially now.
Well, I can't thank you enough for what you've done. We're really glad to have you on. This is at the end of the show. We like to give people a chance to, mention picks or things they want. You spend many hours a day picking things on Product Hunt. Is there anything you would like to pick here on the show?
Wow. Let's see. I do end up hunting a lot of things. Actually, here, I'll give you this one. I don't know when this is going to come out, but I can't say specifically what it is, but there is a web browser that I now use. It is called Arc.
I use Arc.
It's made by the browser company of New York, and they have a big launch coming up tomorrow. You should watch my Product Hunt account. You will discover the thing that they're launching. It's very cool. And as far as let's just say the read-write web that was something that Richard McManus, of course, was writing about for many years. That idea, I think, is coming to roost in a very real and important way. And so it starts a new conversation about what the web is and what level of control people can have over their internet experience. So watch for that tomorrow.
I will, as an Arc user.
Hey, we got an inside.
Yeah. It's from the Browser Co. So go to browser. Well, I guess you can go to arc.net is probably the easiest.
You can go to arc.net.
Yeah.
Now, I believe it's still invite only, but nonetheless, get yourself on the list.
Yeah.
They're probably, they want to open it up soon. They've been working on the Windows version, which is pretty interesting. I mean, just everything that they're doing is super, creative, and seeing a web browser come out of the East Coast, as much as, you think it's a global internet, New York has different ideas about media and about content. It is also interesting that my friend Mike Krieger, who is one of the co-founders of Instagram, and is now, of course, working on Artifact, which is sort of a TikTok for news, if you will, is on the board of Arc.
Oh.
And so he's bringing a lot of his ideas into Arc.
I use Artifact as well. We've talked about it. Very interesting. All right. I don't know if I have any invites. I don't think I do. So I just will, and I'm sure you don't. So
there is, I will say, since we're talking about Arc, there is a Reddit subreddit that I am an admin of. It's at r/arc browser. And every month there is a mega invite thread. And so for folks who want to get an invite, that might be a place where you could solicit such a thing.
Right now, Mac only, but Windows coming, as you said. Soon. And watch for an announcement on Product.
And they also have iOS
tomorrow.
So,
iOS
tomorrow.
That's right. I just wanted to mention we didn't put it in the we didn't do the Google changelog, but I did want to point out that Bard is now putting images in the search. So I asked Bard, what are some must-see sites in the Veneto region of Italy? Mike, see how accurate this is. Obviously, Venice, and there's like a map from Wikipedia of Venice. Verona. Known for the Roman theater, the Arena di Verona.
And Romeo and Juliet was set in Verona.
That's right. The homes of Shakespeare's Juliet Capulet. Is Lago di Garda close? I didn't realize.
Yes.
I've been to Garda. I love Garda. We have friends who have a house there. The Dolomites.
And there are many Dolomites is unbelievable.
Okay. So far, Bard's got it right. Palladian villas designed by Andrea Palladio. Those are just a few of the many must-see sites. But notice the images now in Bard. That's pretty cool.
That's right.
Yep.
The thing we do, of course, I mean, the architecture and the nature is amazing. But as you know, Leo, we love the food culture and the wine culture. And this is one of the greatest wine regions in the world. It's known for Prosecco, of course. And, Americans know one or two types of Prosecco. There are many dozens of types of Prosecco. It's an incredibly rich, diverse wine variety. And then there's 100 other varieties. There's a famous guy who hybridized grape varieties decades ago, Mosconi, and basically there's all these wine varieties nobody's ever heard of that are amazing. But we have these really great friends here who are winemakers, food producers, cheese makers, all this kind of stuff, who are just geniuses, and they quietly ply their craft.
Yeah.
And they teach us all about it. So it's just an amazing food and wine.
So I followed up. I said, "How about the wines?" And it knew I was still talking about Veneto. It said Valpolicella. Okay, we know that one. Classico, Soave, Prosecco.
Right.
Well, we know about that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't find any of the lesser known ones. So I think you're just going to have to go there with Mike and Amira and find out for yourself.
The world here's a little bit of trivia. The world's first wine critic was Pliny the Elder, and 2,000 years ago. And one of his favorite wines was what we now call Prosecco. It wasn't sparkling back then; it was a still white wine. And many styles of Prosecco are still actually, but it's with the grape variety that then was called Prosecco that's now called Glera. And he was a huge fan. So it was even during the Roman Empire they were drinking Prosecco.
Mike, you have some tools to fix news as your pick of the week.
I do, in fact. And these, I don't necessarily recommend these like as to go and use these tools as your source of news, but I think it's interesting to see what people are coming up with to fix what they think is broken about news. For example, news is too stressful, news is too sensational, news is too time consuming. So there's an app called OneSub, so you can find it at onesub.io, which is an app that basically, this is a website. This is a website that gives you the news that's actionable, it's on the positive side. It's kind of like it's designed to let you be informed without being freaked out about the state of the world, which I think is nice. There's another site called boringreport.org. This is hilarious. This is an app. The icon for this app, the logo for this app is somebody yawning.
Boring news. Just what I need.
They use AI they strip out the sensationalism using AI.
Oh, that's
they just
clever.
give you the facts. Yeah.
Oh, because I hate the link bait crap, man. I just get mad.
Yeah, exactly. And you can see their example there. It's pretty.
Alien invasion imminent. Earth doomed to destruction. Turns it into experts discuss possibility of extraterrestrial life and potential impact on Earth. Boring.
And then there's another one that hyper summarizes the news called you can find it at web.concise.app. And what this does is it strips down the news to its bare essence and it gives you this bullet point of the different aspects of a news story. So it'll take a TechCrunch article, for example, and it'll give you 3 bullet points that give you the main points of that article. And so anyway, I don't recommend necessarily that the brilliant news consumer who listens and watches this podcast rely on any of these, but they should check them out to see what people are thinking about in terms of news. I personally am a big fan of a site called allsides.com. And I don't know if you've ever talked about it on the show.
No.
But allsides.com is a fantastic resource that takes every news source. I think they in their database, they have 1,000 and something news sources. And they have a crowdsourced a rating about whether they're extreme left, moderately left, in the center, moderately right, or extreme right, and then they fold this against the degree to which they fact check the content that they produce. And so you can really explore your news sources. And I think this is the biggest problem with news. People just take whatever news that comes to them over the social networks, which is a terrible way to consume news. You should be aware of the credibility and the bias or leaning of every news source that you consume. And allsides.com is a great place to start thinking about that. And you can also contribute your input about whether, is CNN extreme left or is it like slightly left of center or whatever. You can put in your 2 cents about that. But anyway, these three, All Sides has been around forever. These 3 sites that I'm talking about, I think have emerged in the last week. So they're all very new.
You know, one thing, it's funny, for OneSub, I actually worked with Jim on his launch on Product Hunt. So
fantastic.
Seeing that around.
Nice.
Great.
I have subscribed to OneSub now, and now I get to choose some of the people I want to follow, I guess. People most mentioned.
Not Elon Musk, please.
No, or Nikki Haley, but maybe Jimmy, Al Sharpton, maybe. And All Sides,
Mike,
I
have
think
you tried the summarization feature in Artifact?
I didn't know it had a summarization feature.
Oh, it's quite good.
Oh, you need to tell them to make that more obvious.
Yeah.
They're doing a lot of changes and updates. They've been adding a lot more. You can now follow authors, which is kind of interesting. You can also leave comments, and the comments actually are so far positive, but there's a little sparkly icon, I believe, when you go to a specific story.
Oh yeah, I see it.
You press that
at the top.
It'll say summarize.
Oh, that's new. I like that.
It's really good. And especially, they don't, from what I can tell, they don't seem to strip out the ads because they want to be very publisher friendly. I mean, these are the founders of Instagram, of course. And so they want to support that.
No, it's on the phone down here. I'm just telling our TD, pick up my over the shoulder. There it is. So I did the summary of this Verge article, and there is the summary up at the top. That's cool.
So it pops up at the top, and it's great because you can avoid all of the ads and all the other kind of and now actually in the latest version, they have the ability to report clickbait articles. They literally call it that.
Oh, good, because it's a really bane.
So great about
that's I love seeing
bane
that.
of the net.
Yes. So if they sort of realign incentives so that the clickbait, reporting clickbait is useful and good because there's so much stuff out there that's just like, oh, this thing was said on Twitter and the whole thing is a tweet and it's just like content around it.
Right.
Second, you can add the reader mode. So that cuts out a lot of the other garbage and stuff that pops up all the time. And you can use summarization. And so you can quickly get the gist of an article and decide if you really want to dive in. So it's becoming a pretty, regular staple for me in terms of my news consumption.
Awkward silence. Ron DeSantis' bold Twitter gambit that flopped. The Florida governor wanted to show off his tech savvy by announcing his presidential campaign on Twitter. It quickly devolved into the conference call from hell. Yeah, that was the Times summary, actually. That was good. Conference call from hell. And this is concise, which is doing somewhat the same thing, just paring down the articles using AI. We're going to see more and more of this. And I love the idea of an AI agent that knows what I'm interested in, kind of like a Google Alerts or the old tracking on Twitter that can generate for me something of value. Ultimately, I'd love AI to do our whole show rundown. So I just show up and I say, here's what AI chose for us today.
Oh, so AI gets the democracy and the rest of us don't. I get it.
Jeff Jarvis, what's your pick of the week this week?
Well, so God bless the Internet Archive.
Absolutely.
They have,
absolutely.
Scanned in USC's optical sound effects library, 1954 1987. So this little thing for audio here. If you go down on the left, about 10 down, you'll see crowd applause.
Oh,
I want to be able to have power to use this after I give a soliloquy. That
I was thinking we could use liquid and mud.
That was not right.
That's an explosion. So these are reel-to-reel tapes. Let's see. How about a fight? This might be good for moral panic.
Yeah.
Oh, these are pretty old.
Yeah, they are.
These are not well recorded. You can hear all the noise and hiss.
You could do like a 70s movie though. It would be so fun.
You could totally.
Tarantino,
Yeah, totally. Sure. How about bells, horns, and whistles? So this is a whole box, and these are the different tapes in the box. This is hysterical. Let's see, department store chimes. Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, when department stores existed.
Exactly.
When they had chimes.
Only Leo and I are old enough to remember that.
Yes. Hosiery on floor 5. All right. This is fun. Look at this. And they have like the picture of the
Jammer
tapes.
B, I think we all should have our soundboards out of this.
Yeah. Here's some animal sounds. This is, again, thanks to the Internet Archive for...
Pig snorting. We got to have some pig snorting.
All right. Let's get some...
Apple users.
Wait a minute. That had a slate on it. Some farmer.
Wait, is that from the Twitter space?
Wow. The USC Optical Sound Effects Library from the Sunset Editorial Collection. Oh, it's from the USC Cinema Department. So you're right. These were old movies.
The company was active from 64 to 87. They did episodic TV shows like Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie.
Oh, my gosh. 569 credits on IMDb. That's a great find. Thank you. Anything else you want to plug?
No, that's enough.
That's enough. Then let's go home.
Plug, of course. Wait.
The book is called The Gutenberg Parenthesis, and the website is gutenbergparenthesis.com. That's where you can go and order it. Lisa was ordering it, and she wanted to know where to order it from.
Well, it's up to you. Bloomsbury has 10% off. Blackwell's I quite like out of London, but they ship to America with even more higher percentage off.
Does one of them make Jeff Jarvis more money than others?
Oh, I don't make any money on this stuff, but it's fine.
Well, that's what I told her. I said, order from Blackwell's because it's an independent bookstore in the UK, and we want to. And look, you save $3, so
and free shipping,
and free shipping. That's nice.
Oh, free shipping from the UK.
Well, actually, it's a great thing, Chris, because there are books that are only in the UK and I can only get there. That's how I discovered them. So they will ship from there, but they also sell American books.
Got it.
Nice. Or you could spend $27 and get it on Amazon for crying.
Well, that'll go down.
Wow.
Well, you get the price guarantee that whenever they decide what it is.
Okay.
It'll go down.
But is there anything about the hashtag in this book? Do I need to get this book and a signed copy?
Gutenberg
yes.
Did Gutenberg have hashtags?
There is. Absolutely there is.
Wait a minute. What?
I don't know if the index has.
Check the index.
Yeah.
You need an AI-generated index if it's not in there.
Oops. No, it's not in there.
Hey, Chris, you'll appreciate this. Speaking of hashtags, all throughout Europe, people who speak languages other than English as their main language,
if they,
for example, if you go to the airport in France, an airport in France, and you park, and they say, okay, to get out of the parking garage, you have to do this 4 code and then do a pound sign, but they call it a hashtag. They say press 3427 hashtag to get out
because nobody knows.
It's universal in Europe.
Wasn't
right.
it?
Nobody's
wasn't
ever
the
heard
Octothorpe too? Wasn't that another?
Yeah, the Octothorpe. Yeah, that didn't.
Chris, you are on page 192.
Oh my God!
Look at that! Look at that! Amazing! It's an amazing.
Well,
cameo.
read it to us. What does it say?
Yeah, let me know.
First proposed in 2007 by Chris Messina as a way to bring together groups on Twitter, it was adopted to mark movements to create call and response conversations, to protest, to joke, to organize otherwise diffuse information and discussion.
Did an AI write that?
Hey.
Well, one thing we're sure of, Sean Penn did not write that.
No.
That's great. I can't wait. So it's not just Gutenberg that this book is about.
It's about the lessons we have to learn from our entry into the age of print as we leave it. So the first half of the book is a loving history of print and its spread and impact all the way up to computers. And then the second half of the book is basically 4 essays about lessons like creativity versus control, conversation versus content, mass versus community, and institutions and whether they should be updated.
Wow, I'm looking forward to reading
That
this.
sounds good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Chris
You know,
Messina.
one of my first jobs, by the way, was in when I was in college. I studied in Switzerland for a semester, and I actually worked at a print shop as a janitor.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was cold type by that, I presume?
I mean, well, it was cold. It was,
Switzerland.
Yeah, Switzerland. Yeah, but lead. Yeah, there was a lead type.
Wow.
thing.
So you have to sweep up little slugs and put them in
On
the
July
Silvers,
8th,
yeah.
I'm going to appear at the Museum of Printing in Haverhill, Mass. With our friend Glenn Fleischman.
Oh, he's done
Doug
stuff
Wilson,
there before,
who
I
did-
think. Yeah.
Yeah, Doug Wilson, who did the Linotype book, and Marcin Vickery, who did.
Oh, nice. I backed his
Shift
book.
Heavens. Yeah.
Oh,
Can't wait for it.
I'm looking forward to getting that. That's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
July 8th, Shift Happens meets Etoine Sherdlu.
Is that a real word?
That will be.
That is a word-shaped blob.
That's that. Oh, you don't know? Okay, well, nerd time. The keyboard on the Linotype was different. And so when they wanted to just clear a line, they would go down the keys and it would pop out a line and the keys spelled Etoine Sherdlu.
Wait a minute. I've always known Etoine Sherdlu as in order the most common letters in the English language.
Well, that was the theory that's why they got picked in that order, but that's not necessarily
true
the case.
Oh, that's going to
hallucination.
hurt my Wordle score because that's what I'm using to figure out what I should pick in Wordle. You're kidding me. ETAOINSHRDLU are not the most frequent letters in order.
They kind of are, but there's some variation on them.
You should ask ChatGPT.
How they
I bet
determine
ChatGPT would know.
Should I ask Bart or ChatGPT?
Both.
Okay, let's ask ChatGPT. What's the question? What are in order
12 most
of frequency
popularity or frequency of use
the
maybe
top
sort the alphabet.
okay 26 letters in the English. I gotta say English, right? Because it's going to be different.
Yes, it's
True.
In the English, what?
A lot more Z in
the English herbs. Is English misspelled? Why does it? Oh, because it's not capitalized. That's
not capitalized.
It'll figure it out.
Yeah, in the English alphabet. Vocabulary. That's better. Yeah. I don't. I'm trying to think of a word.
Actually, you want to know what it is in ChatGPT and your entire.
It only has its corpus to look at. What else would it look at?
Well,
here we go, ladies and gentlemen. According to ChatGPT, ETAOINSHRDLU.
Whoa.
All right, shall I ask Bard the same thing? Because I think it just confirmed what I have thought all along. Irrespective, you're going to have to use this at your talk. I just want to point out here.
Some good trivia.
Let's see what Bard says. If Bard comes up with something different, we're in trouble.
Exactly.
EARTINOSHDLU. So
see, I think that the other one just went with common knowledge.
Made stuff up. Oh,
no, just common knowledge.
Didn't count.
Where's Google of the story?
Google said this list is based on analysis of letters occurring in the words listed in the main entries of the concise Oxford Dictionary.
What tells you where it found it to? That's
nice. Let me see. Let me look at what OpenAI said. Maybe it.
No citation.
No citation. Huh. Ooh. Well, now we've got a conflict, an AI battle.
I mean, AI cage matches are something I'm here for sure.
AI cage match. Oh, Bard just pulled this from an article. That's why. That's why. So,
well, and which one do I trust?
The article, right? XSPDF.com resolute. Yeah, it's an article, huh? Because it cites it, whereas ChatGPT.
Use Neeva one last time, Leo.
I'm going to be so sad. It's going to be so sad. Trackers be gone. It says THHEINENNTRE.
What the hell?
ER.
All right.
Well, I didn't say single letters. I didn't. So it's just
the other one's figured it out.
It's diphthongs or something. I don't know what it is. Thank you, Chris, for being here. Really appreciate it. I hope you'll come back. We love having you on. You're just fantastic. Have a great day. Keep up the wonderful stuff you're doing, and we'll watch Product Hunt tomorrow.
3 hours of your life. We're grateful for the contribution.
Shot to hell. Yeah. You'll never get back.
Yep.
Jeff Jarvis, thank you
Mike,
so much.
What time is it there, Mike, now? 2 a.m? Jeez.
Oh, God, I forgot about that.
2:18. Yeah, wow. So it's all right. No, it's no big deal. No big deal.
Jeff Jarvis is the Leonard Tow Professor for Journalistic Innovation at the Craig Newmark Graduate School of Journalism at the City University of New York. We are required to read that contractually every single time he's on. Buzzmachine.com. Thank you, Jeff. Gutenberg.com for the book.
Craig wasn't pleased last time when you made.
I know. He sent me a nasty note about pigeons.
Yeah.
No, don't get. Yeah, I think isn't he doing pigeons on Mastodon or Blue Sky? Or
he's doing pigeons everywhere.
Pigeons
he has the Pigeon Rescue Foundation.
I know.
But I said, foolishly apparently, that maybe it'd be nice if Craig put some more money into, what was it?
It was preserving cultural archives or something.
Yeah, like instead of saving the pigeon,
because things were going to get dying off of YouTube, and you just upset you.
Didn't like that at all.
Craig listens; he knows.
I'm sorry, Craig. You know I love you, and I love your pigeons. Let's see. What did he write? He wrote.
He just sent a picture.
He just sent a picture of an angry pigeon.
No, yeah,
and then he sent a picture of Alfred Hitchcock.
No, I sent that.
Oh, okay, good.
I was like, wow, that's threatening.
So this is what Craig said. Just a pigeon giving me the evil eye.
The header. I can't remember what the topic line was.
It just said, "Watch out, Leo." Oh no, you said that.
Yeah, he sent it.
GFK would like a word. What is GFK?
It's the nickname of the bird. I can't remember what it stands for.
Oh, okay.
I should know that.
Ghost-faced killer would like a word.
That's it. Ghost-faced killer. That's right.
That's more of a threat than your thing.
Yeah, I did.
Mr. Elgin, thank you so much for staying up late with us in the Veneto. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Leo, can I do a 30-second pitch?
Plug Kevin's thing, man.
Because we talked about these things.
Hello,
so his
Chatterbox.
product is HelloChatterbox.com is the thing. It's called Chatterbox. It's an educational product where kids build a smart speaker, kind of like an Amazon Echo or something like that. And then they teach it how to talk and interact. It's the only educational product that I know of that uses both ChatGPT and also Stable Diffusion.
That's new. That's cool.
Kids are protected. Yes, it is. Kids are protected from, objectionable content and so on like that through the Chatterbox system. But the most important thing is it teaches kids how AI works. It demystifies AI, and it gets them to use it as a tool. And what they end up with is actually a computer that they can use that has no screen, that can do anything they want it to do. It can turn on lights. It can do a million things. They can customize it. And this is great for schools and educational environments, whether it's homeschooling or whatever. And also individuals can buy it and build it themselves. I think this is a really great product for kids to learn about AI, especially now that everybody's talking about AI. Kids are, having AI write their essays and stuff like that, and nobody really understands it. So this takes kids at the age of around 8 years old and up, and really teaches them what AI is, how it works, and how it can be used for educational purposes instead of, the opposite.
Really cool.
Are you connected to the founders or the makers? I mean, this is the kind of thing I'd love to get on product.
This is my son Kevin invented.
Funny you should ask.
There we go. Yeah. Well, have him, reach out and I'll get on product for you.
Wonderful. Yes.
That would be great.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah. Good.
That.
Making connections. Look at that.
Good.
Look at that.
Exactly.
Who needs AI?
Another Twig miracle.
That's right.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you all for being here, for joining us, for being a part of the conversation. We do Twig, I think, one of the most interesting shows in the world, frankly, and I hope you will tune in and tell your friends. We do it. You can watch it live if you want every Wednesday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2100 UTC, but you can also listen after the fact at twit.tv/twig. If you want to send a clip to your friends, use our YouTube channel. If you go to twit.tv/twig, there's a link right there, or just look for youtube.com/thisweek in Google. And it's very easy to send clips. And since everybody has access to YouTube, that seems like a good way to do it. Of course, the best way for you to get the show would be to subscribe in your favorite podcast player, because that way you'll get it automatically. You don't have to remember. You just go, oh, I know, I must have a new Twig. It's here. We hope you will come back next week. We thank you for being here. We will see you next time on This Week in Google. Bye-bye, everybody. Ciao. Yay. Ciao, bello.
Ciao.
Listeners of this program get an ad-free version if they're members of Club Twit. $7 a month gives you ad-free versions of all of our shows. Plus, membership in the Club Twit Discord, a great clubhouse for Twit listeners. And finally, the Twit Plus feed with shows like Stacy's Book Club, The Untitled Linux Show, The Giz Fizz, and more. Go to twit.tv/clubtwit. And thanks for your support.